My chair.
Yeah, I would give it mine.
I'd like to welcome everyone here. My name is Lorraine Bauer, and I'm currently holding the position of Deputy Mayor. I'll be chairing the meeting today. I'd like to welcome everyone to the public hearing portion of the meeting. This public hearing is held pursuant to the Municipal Government Act, RSA 2000, Chapter M26, and amendments thereto. I hereby declare the public hearing related to bylaw number 18-11 now open at 7 o'clock p.m. It's 7:08 p.m. We're going to do bylaw -18-11 first, and it will follow 18-13. Thank you, Councillor Sobel.
Thank Thank you, Your Worship. Bylaw 1811 proposes to amend the land use bylaw number 1411 to redesignate lots 13 and 14, Block 5, Plan 9813631, otherwise 82 and 86 Slater Road, to allow for a development permit application to be considered for a salvage yard for an auto body and paint shop and parts salvaging business. Advertisements for Bylaw 1811 were published in the Strathmore Times on September 7th and 14th, 2018. The proposed bylaw was also posted on the Town of Strathmore website.
The following rules of conduct will be followed during the public hearing. Presentation should be brief and to the point and shall be limited to 3 minutes in length, and I'll be timing people. The order of presentation shall be the administration, those in favor of the bylaw, those opposed to the bylaw, any other person deemed to be affected by the bylaw. Council may ask questions of the speakers after each presentation for clarification purposes. There will be no debating the bylaw. Does the administration have any comments?
Yes, we do, Your Worship. Are you ready for our report?
Thank you, yes.
Okay, so I've got a small report today, 7 slides. I'm going to be under 3 minutes for this bylaw. Just to give an overview, we've received an application for a land use redesignation at 82 and 86 Slater Road. The applicant wants to apply for a development permit for a salvage yard to go along with an auto body and paint shop business. This area is south of Highway 1. There's 2 photos there for you to see. 82 Slater Road is on the left and 86 is on the right. Just to give a map of the area that we're talking about in red there. Highway 1, south of Highway 1 there, and Slater Road. And here's just a zoning picture of what the area looks like. We're definitely south of the highway in the industrial sector there, well away from some commercial. Right where the general industrial wording is, that's where our wastewater treatment plant is. So currently we have a definition for salvage yards in the land use bylaw. We've been responding to these things on a case-by-case basis. We're proposing a district overlay, which is site-specific zoning. This option lets council have some control. It lets us set some specific requirements, and it's a relatively quick process. The reason why we've done it this way is we want to reduce the risk that the potential salvage yard unduly affects neighboring properties. We want to reduce that risk. As part of this district overlay, we've stated the following requirements there. There's a fence. We're going to make sure that vehicles aren't stacked higher than the fence. We're going to request some landscaping and provide space for vehicle stacking from Slater Road so that all activity unloading vehicles occurs on private land and not on Slater Road. So we think the development is appropriate for the location. It's south of the highway in the industrial district there. It's a potential new industrial operation in town. We think our requirements are sufficient and kind of help mitigate some of the risks with this potentially heavier industrial use. We support the land use change. The next steps for this proposal would be a development permit if council grants a favorable decision tonight. There's still more planning to be done. And our recommendation tonight is that, subject to the consideration of the public hearing, that council gives second and third reading tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Proctor. Is there anyone present who supports the bylaw who wishes to speak? I understand one response was received from Christine. Yes, would you like to come up and speak, please? Could you state your name and your address?
Nida Penner. I live by Hazar, so on Range Road 210. I would just like to say I'm one of the applicants for this permit, and we thank you so much for considering our application. If there's any questions, we would be more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who supports the bylaw who wishes to speak? Is there anyone present who opposes the bylaw who wishes to speak? Is there anyone present deemed to be affected by the bylaw who wishes to speak? Please come forward. Welcome.
Hi. I'm Christine.
Could you state your name and your address, please?
Yes, you bet. My name is Christine Yurchuk. I'm the adjacent property owner on 90 Slater Road.
Thank you.
I did submit a letter to the town. Chuck addressed half of it already. The part that I'm concerned about, or my suggestions, is that the grade of the property be at the same grade of ours. The grade is much lower than our property, so even if they were to put in a fence that isn't visibly see-through, we'd be able to just look into the property. With that as well, the drainage for the site will go right into their property or onto ours, depending how the grade is at the end. So I'm worried about the environmental impact that a salvage yard might bring. And I just want to make sure that there's a groundwater management plan and environmental impact done as well. A nice clean salvage yard site is obviously something that we would like to have as a neighbor as well. I have seen them not look so nice. And that's about it. I want to thank you for the time to hear my suggestions. Should you go through the bylaw?
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else present deemed to be affected by the bylaw who wishes to speak? Do the councillors have any further questions? Are there any further speakers? I hereby declare this public hearing for bylaw 18-11 closed at 7:14 p.m. and will accept a motion to adjourn.
So move, Your Worship.
All in favor? It's carried. May I start the next public hearing, Ms. Watsky? Okay. This public hearing is held pursuant to the Municipal Government Act, RSA 2000, Chapter M26, and amendments thereto. I hereby declare the public hearing related to bylaw 18-08 now open at 7:14 p.m.
Thank you, Your Worship. Bylaw 1808 will allow cannabis stores as a discretionary use in the downtown, the highway commercial district, and the light industrial district, subject to separation distances of 125 meters for schools and parks exceeding 0.5 hectares, 100 meters for hospitals and emergency shelters, 50 meters from a school in the central business district, and also addresses hours of operations. Advertisements for bylaw 1808 were published in the Strathmore Times on September 7th and 14th, 2018. The proposed bylaw was also posted on the Town of Strathmore website.
The same rules of conduct will be followed during this public hearing, and there will be no debating the bylaw. Does administration have any comments?
Yes, Your Worship. Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. Council may recall back in April, staff presented a report to the Committee of the Whole that outlined the key features of the Cannabis Act, the federal legislation, as well as 3 provincial pieces of legislation that were intended to respond to that, including the cannabis regulation administered by Alberta Gaming and Liquor. That regulation sets out setback distances from certain facilities for cannabis stores, but it also states that a land use bylaw may vary them and set their own standards. And since there were certainly ambiguities in the regulation, in the cannabis regulation, as what is a school, what is a community facility, and so on and so forth, and at the encouragement of Alberta Gaming and Liquor, we proceeded to write a bylaw that we thought responded to the issues. So, as council may be aware, there are 3 candidate districts within the town where cannabis stores may be considered. They are all shown in green, but they're broken down by the downtown, the highway commercial district, and the light industrial district south of the highway. So that slide there shows all of the candidate locations without the benefit of the setbacks. So these are the setbacks that staff are proposing, and or that the bylaw is proposing. The blue area applies to schools. The violet area applies to parks with a size of greater than 0.5 hectares, 1.2 acres, but they are only municipal reserve designations. The red applies to hospitals and emergency shelters, and the area in the middle in blue in the downtown I will discuss later. But it's obvious from that slide that the setbacks that we're proposing, namely 125 meters from the property line of a school, 100 meters for hospitals and emergency shelters, as well as municipal reserves, does reduce the eligible areas to a small portion of the downtown, and including a lot of areas that are currently not subdivided or developed, including especially, I guess, the pivot fields. So we have, in our report, we had initially considered a 100-meter setback from the school in the downtown. This map shows the implication or the consequences of a 50 versus 100-meter separation. Now, even at 100-meter separation, there's still some green areas that would be eligible. The issue is that within that green area, there may not be a lot of properties that are for sale, that are, that are eligible to be used or purchased or leased. So that's why we thought it was not unreasonable to pull it back to 50 meters, but that part of the bylaw is very easily changed. It's subsection whatever, and it can easily be changed from 50 to 100 meters, should you so desire. There was, following first reading, a presentation by Alberta Health Services, and we have now looked at the implications of those setbacks on our community. Oops, I am missing one. Where'd it go? I'm missing a slide. How did that? I apologize. Well, I can tell you one thing. Having done this, we looked at liquor stores. We looked at liquor stores and related stuff, and it virtually eliminates almost the entire, anything north of the highway except the undeveloped lands on the east end, east of the PD Mart. There's nothing left on the north side of the highway except around just west of Walmart, a portion that isn't affected there, and most of the balance of the area south of the highway is also compromised due to the 300-meter separation distance from the stuff prescribed by.
We're just asking for clarification, if you don't mind, Werner. Councillor Peterson?
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. So what you're just talking about, that is relative to the document we received tonight from AHS?
No, it's relative to the presentation that was made at council, I think. About
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
All right.
And it also responds in part to that document as well.
That's what I needed to know. Thank
You were saying that if there was a 300-meter setback from liquor stores, then we would be limited to where the stores would be able to
we've
go.
looked at,
We'd have to put them in the county?
there would be virtually nothing north of the highway, except the Rona, which, and I don't want to be that specific, but there's really very little left for it. Yes, that's the one. So I'll just pass this around. This is the white area, sorry, the green area is what's left when you apply Alberta Health AHS.
Okay.
Thank you.
So in other words, it's the area by the Dodge dealership, small area in here, the pivot fields, and you can see mostly east of the PV Mart and a small area around.
Thank you.
So only the green areas would be left, and at that point, I think the scale of those setbacks is not in keeping with a community this size. So in looking at some of the stuff that Alberta Health Services provided, I'm familiar with some of the research. Now, I'll just draw an analogy. From downtown Calgary to city center in Red Deer is 147 kilometers, according to Google Maps. From the northern end of Los Angeles at San Fernando to Mission Viejo is 182 kilometers. It's a continuous city. And that's not all of Los Angeles or the greater Los Angeles area. So if you can imagine everything from downtown Calgary to the downtown Red Deer being a continuous urban development, and then another 35 kilometers beyond that, then I think it is reasonable and appropriate to establish some separation distance and talk about densities per square kilometer. But I don't know how you apply densities per square kilometer to a community this size. You either do it to the whole of the community, including all the undeveloped area, or you apply it to the areas that are eligible. well, we've already excluded all the residential areas, the neighborhood commercial areas, and we've left the light industrial, the highway commercial, and the downtown, or a portion, certainly a portion of the downtown. A final observation is that the town has updated its website regarding cannabis legalization. Some of the key features of this update include the following. We've established links to the provincial government's cannabis framework. There's a description of Strathmore's action plan. There's instructions for submitting development permit applications for cannabis stores, including the checklists. Maps showing where cannabis stores may be considered based on the outcome of this public hearing and the adoption of the bylaw as proposed or amended, and timelines and related information. That essentially concludes my presentation, Your Worship. How was that, 3 minutes?
It was a little over. Is there anyone present who supports the bylaw who wishes to speak? Is there anyone present who opposes the bylaw who wishes to speak? Is there anyone present deemed to be affected by the bylaw who wishes to speak? And do the councillors have any further questions? Councillor Sobel.
Thank you. And thank you for your presentation, Mr. Fisher. The question I have is in regards to AHS's comment or statement, I guess, that the implementation of a distance from all child care facilities is not addressed with our land use recommendation. And I just want to clarify with you that if I'm reading the definition section correct, then indeed child care facilities are influenced by this bylaw in regards to their proximity to any retail.
No, they're not. We talked about this, I think, back in April and concluded that I don't think there's a high risk that children in a daycare are going to be consuming marijuana. And that was the reason that we excluded it.
Right.
We also looked at post-secondary education, and they're presumably older than they're adults.
Yeah.
And so,
With respect, I don't know if my concern is so much that the young ones are going to be smoking marijuana, but they're going to be in proximity to people purchasing. But that's not the point I'm trying to make here. The point I'm trying to make is in regards to the definition section of school.
so fair enough. Yes. So obviously, if a daycare
If I
is
can find it
operated out
again.
of a school, there will be consideration. It'll be subject to the 125 meter or the 50 meter separation. The other thing I think to keep in mind is we're not suggesting that any of this be a permitted use. We would look
No, I
at it
appreciate
on
that.
on its merits. And,
I appreciate that.
yeah.
But I want to clarify this point a second. Just let me try to find that definition section again, because I've lost it again.
Page 1 of 3 at the end,
Yeah,
Bob.
right. 101?
If you keep going down to the bylaw at the end of the package. Oh, you know what?
101,
I'm-
thank you, Trent. So school, 141B states that school, private, means a use that may provide before or after-school programs that are defined as child care service.
That's correct. Yeah. Yes.
And there is documentation in the bylaw that deals with school private.
Yes.
In
so-
regards to
so in that
set-
respect, so insofar as the school may provide childcare services, that childcare facility would be protected. But
That's
we're
what
not
I-
expanding it to other private facilities.
I was just worried about child care facilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sobel.
And the only other issue I wanted to question was in regards to signage, and I know you've got some wordage here in regards to the fact that signage and rules thereof in regards to these retail stores is going to await the new land use bylaw. But what will happen with the signs that are going up at the time? Are they certainly they'd have to be grandfathered, would they not?
Well, signs, we have a land use bylaw.
Yep.
It regulates signs. I think there's some opportunities for improvement, but I don't know any way to write a use-specific sign. I can write signs for regional shopping centers, for highway commercial, for downtown, for neighborhood commercial. They may be limited. Freestanding signs might be limited in height and size, you know, like maybe 30 feet in a neighborhood.
In the new
commercial.
bylaw.
Yeah, in the new bylaw. Well,
But-
we already have regulations.
Yes, I appreciate that. But if the new bylaw is gonna make either more stringent or different requirements in regards to signage, my question is, what is gonna happen to the present signage if they're in violation of the new bylaw?
All the signs will be, I mean, effectively, signage doesn't have quite the same status as a non-conforming use. It may be non-complying with the current bylaw in the future.
With the new bylaw.
But it doesn't have any consequence until there's a change. So signs by their very nature tend to be grandfathered, always. So let's say we have
That was my question.
200-foot high freestanding sign advertising a gas station or you know, it's not uncommon to see that in the States, you know, from 20 miles off. Those signs, unless there's a specific provision in their bylaw that requires them to be removed, are typically there for virtual perpetuity.
So I guess my question is, why would we go down this road? Why would we not just have the new retail stores very clearly abide by the present land use bylaw, which is going to be the case, is it not?
Yes, I mean, unfortunately, we don't have the bylaw to present at this time.
But no, the new one. I'm talking about the present one,
Well,
not
we
the
will
new
cer-
one, the
we-
present one.
We will apply the present bylaw.
Okay.
And so there will
I
be-
guess I'm a little confused as to why we went down that rabbit hole about signage anyway.
Well, I don't know, except that it came up on the questionnaire and people said, you know, we think we should have, I guess there was some concern about the nature, the character of the communication on the signs, but then there's some very, very tight rules and legal issues around what you can put on the sign and what you can't put on the sign. And so, I mean, if it's advertising the name of a company, like, you know, a multinational, you know, if the name of the company is, you know, Fisher's Optical, that's appropriate. Other language may not be appropriate, and it may be in conflict with community standards. It's just simply a question that came up in the questionnaire
All right.
process. And
Fair enough. And lastly, the reasoning behind the 2 a.m. Shutdown is that to comply with the liquor side of things?
Yeah, it seemed to, you know, I think we want to, I think we want to leave some flexibility, but I think we can also work it in reverse, that we can limit the hours of operation if we think it's appropriate. And again, that sometimes relates more to flashing signs than it does, you know, and it also depends on where. Sometimes liquor stores get very busy around 2 a.m., depending on where they're located. And you may
As I'm
have
sure
the
these
same-
places will be.
Yeah, and so we, you know, we might have some flexibility there, but
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship.
You're welcome. Councillor Sobel, thank you very much. And any other councillors have any other questions? Does council feel they have enough information to make a decision? Ms. Sawatsky, would we vote on that? Okay.
We're going to the public.
So then I can declare this public hearing for bylaw 18-08 closed at 7:31 PM, and we'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Corbeil. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Sawatsky, should we call a recess or just go straight into the next portion?
Your Worship, we can move into the regular council meeting.
Okay. May I have confirmation, so just so the public knows, we're going to go to our regular scheduled council meeting now. May I have confirmation of the agenda, please? Are there any other additions to the agenda? Councillor Sobel?
Thank you, Your Worship. Your Worship, I have a matter that I would like to present to Council on behalf of our Traffic Advisory Committee. This matter is time-sensitive and one that will require Council approval in order to proceed, and I respectfully request that the matter of the Committee's application to submit a grant to the Alberta Traffic Safety Fund be added as an emergent matter to this evening's Council agenda.
So we'll add that to 11.1, Councillor
you.
Sobel.
Thank you, Your
Traffic
Worship.
Advisory Committee grant. Are there any other additions, councillors? Ms. Sawatsky?
Your Worship, administration has a number of changes to the agenda, and they are as follows. We're going to delete item 4.5, Canadian Badlands Tourism Delegation. And then we're going to make amendments, and we're going to move some items up. So item 7.3, we're going to move to right after 3 presentations. Following 7.3, we're going to move into bylaws. So that will be bylaw 10.1, 10.2, or sorry, items 10.1, 10.2, 10.3, and 10.4.
You'd like clarification, Councillor Peterson?
Yeah, so legislative services, so you're saying that 7.3 is coming after 4.4?
Your Worship, 7.3 will come after number 3, presentations and recognitions.
Thank you.
So
Gotcha.
we'll do it before
Thank you.
delegations.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. May I have a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
So move, Your Worship.
All in favor? And that's carried. So we'll go straight to 7.3 now. And 7.3 is the proposed Lakewood Meadows Area Structure Plan Amendment Further Information. It's on page 55 of your agenda. And Ryan, will you be presenting that?
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much.
Well, staff will make our proposal, or our presentation here pretty brief. At the last regular council meeting, no presentation yet. Council, there was a public hearing held for amendments to the area structure plan and the land use bylaw surrounding Lakewood, or regarding the neighborhood known as Lakewood Meadows. At that time, council gave second reading to the bylaw. However, council had a few questions that they requested be answered. Staff and the developer have worked together to put together responses to these. Very quickly, just so as not to spend too much time on this, question rose about the viability of the site. So the developer feels that with a population of almost 2,000 residents, this is sort of similar to comparable communities in Calgary that have successful lake communities. As well, the developer has been talking to some of the developers and potential developers north and northeast of the site to see if they'd be interested in their homeowners eventually being able to pay into this lake. And there has been some support there, although nothing confirmed yet. With regards to the possibility of a gate, the developer has no plans to put a gate at. It's not intended to be a gated community. However, for safety purposes, there may be a gate at the head of public access to the lake. That way it can close at a certain hour and keep folks out. There's no expectation on the part of staff that there'll be an impact to extant town water infrastructure. When the ECRW, the East Calgary Regional Water Line, came in, the reservoir up in that area was fully decommissioned. So there's no longer a water treatment plant in the area, and there'd be no mechanism for pumping water. For better or worse, the East Calgary Water Line is the service for town, and there's no sort of backup available in Lakewood Meadows. There's the no discharge agreement currently with the WID. There are negotiations ongoing to sort that out. However, that wouldn't change as a result of this. If no amendments were made to town's agreements with the WID regarding discharge, the project wouldn't proceed, and the developer recognizes that risk. And the developer's content to take that risk on. There's no real risk to the town there, because ultimately, if there were a situation, if the developer moved to, say, phase 6, and there were no ability to move stormwater, it simply wouldn't receive subdivision approval. So there's no real risk of the town getting in a situation where we've approved subdivision and subsequent hosting without the possibility of discharge. With regards to the 40 acres, where that is, that there is a topographic map in council's package. I hope it's readable. I'm never quite sure how these turn out on photocopies. With regards to the WID, WID has no concerns other than that this may tie into, this won't have bearing on the CSMI discussions. However, the CSMI discussions will have bearing on this project, we'll say. We'll go in reverse there. And finally, with regards to protective services, staff have talked with protective services. The response they had there was, potential responses for incidents at the lake. As well, they'll be requesting at the time of subdivision that some dry hydrants be put in the area for, in case there's an emergency out there. I think that concludes sort of the response to council's requests regarding the project. However, if there are any questions, staff are available to respond.
Councillor Peterson?
Just a question, not with regards to the topographical map, but with regards to the map on page 56, which shows the water pond. So this is a firm commitment now? Because when we initially did second reading, they weren't certain that this was going to actually be the space that they were going to use for the site?
Your worship, with regards to that, it's not sort of a millimeter precise commitment until the subdivision is complete. However, this will be, within sort of the accuracy, it is a couple of meters, the areas.
And the actual sizes are as shown, so that'll be within the 15 acres and the 23.1 acres.
23.4, your worship, yeah.
And my follow-up question, well, one of the outstanding issues was also with regards to concept development in the adjoining development to the west, that they would have adequate stormwater process due to our continental divide in our community, that there was some concern with that they wouldn't have adequate stormwater capacity.
Your worship, so with regards to that, and that would, with regards to Wildflower to the south was a big concern. So Wildflower doesn't drain there now, drain to that area, and there would be no bearing on that.
Are you sure? I think that's not correct. I think that a portion of Wildflower still drains to there. I stand to be correct to your much greater knowledge, but that's a surprise to me. But I'll have to take your word for it.
Do you have any further questions, Councillor
I
Peterson?
don't, not at this time, Your
Councillor Montgomery?
Thank you, Worship. So my question just follows up on Councillor Peterson's question. And so you're saying that none of the annexed, like the currently annexed land, drains towards that area?
Your worship, no, there's no, none of the lands there is planned to drain towards that property, or sorry, towards that pond at this time, and that's why that extra 25 acres was sort of deemed surplus, for want of a better word. That's no longer needed to accommodate storm discharge.
Okay. And is there any, any limits on where the 40 acres is that the town is entitled to? Like, do we get to kind of pick where we want it to be?
Your worship, with regards to that, the trust agreement indicates that the 40 acres has to be used for storm discharge land. So if the developer were to hypothetically come in with a subdivision and the town were to say, okay, we will trigger the trust agreement and take sort of 40 acres of prime development land, I suspect that would go to a legal challenge. So it would be intended that 40 acres that would be triggered at the time of the trust agreement being triggered, so that subdivision would be within that basin as shown on the topographic map.
Okay. And so do we currently collect an offsite levy to deal with stormwater in the new annex lands?
Your worship, yeah, part of the off-site levies are collecting for storm infrastructure.
Okay, and will we be expecting Lakewood to, and so I guess like will Lakewood be responsible for their own stormwater then, if they happen to make a deal with the WID?
Your worship, with regards to that, Lakewood would be responsible for their own stormwater, always. So they will be responsible for finding an agreement to discharge. They may fit as part of, the town's ultimate agreements with the WID or other sources, in which case their, levies would pay for any stormwater infrastructure required.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. I just have one question, Ryan. Just in your, and thank you very much for providing us with the additional information on this topic. It says under impact of the existing infrastructure that the choice was made to repurpose the raw water reservoir and modify it into a storm pond, recognizing that there is currently a zero discharge agreement in place for stormwater. Could you just explain what a zero discharge agreement is and how that normally is in place for subdivisions, just so that we can all understand that clearly?
Certainly, Your Worship. I'll try to. So right now, the town cannot discharge anything new to WID canals. So we couldn't, a subdivision, couldn't put in a new subdivision and put a pipe into one of WID's canals. There are currently agreements for existing developments in town for discharge. However, any new development would have to do either evaporation ponds on site or wait until the town enters into a larger agreement, the Collaborative Stormwater Management Initiative, so CSMI that we keep referring to, or some other bilateral agreement with the WID. So at this time, for example, the Edgefield School has had to build their own evaporation ponds. So stormwater coming off of that discharges to those ponds, and rather than flowing into the canal or into our storm discharge system, it just evaporates. Until such time as the town enters either into, fully endorses and moves into CSMI or a bilateral agreement with the WID, that's the status quo. So Council, I don't want to go too long, but Council may remember when we discussed septic and sort of the sanitary master plan, staff alluded to now the next big challenge for Strathmore is addressing stormwater. And that's sort of the next big constraint to growth in Strathmore is, and for a lot of the new developments, that's the big constraint, is what to do with storm under these zero discharge agreements. And that would be the goal of either CSMI or bilateral agreements. It would be to get rid of that sort of last big roadblock for a lot of the development nodes around town that are currently pending.
Thank you, Mr. Roycroft. Pardon me. Councillor Peterson, you have another question?
So just to follow up on Councillor Montgomery's comment again. So we have the discharge agreement with WID for the original pre-annexation, and the contract doesn't extend to the lands recently annexed.
Your Worship, that's correct. It doesn't include the annexed lands. That's ongoing discussions.
So that's why we think about committing $6 million over the next 20 years to CSMI, so that we don't have to depend on evaporation. Am I correct in that?
Your Worship, that's
I mean, it's simplistic.
The final number hasn't
Yes.
been set. However, the purpose of the discussions around CSMI or other bilateral agreements would be to find stormwater solutions that don't require dedicating vast amount of lands to evaporation ponds, because that makes, ultimately, when a developer has to dedicate that much land, Strathmore becomes non-cost competitive. So that's the goal of these discussions, yeah.
So, thank you. My numbers are probably low, yes. Thank you.
If there are no other questions, may I have a motion to accept the report as information, please?
Yes, Your Worship, with thanks.
Councillor
So moved.
Peterson? All in favor? And that's carried. So now we'll go to number 10, and looking at 10.1 first. Is that right, Ms. Swatsky? The bylaw number 18-13, Lakewood Meadows Area Structure Plan. That's in page 65 of your package. And who will be speaking on that?
Done and done.
Your Worship, that, I
Yeah,
think is
yeah,
with regards
yeah.
to the presentation that staff just made.
Oh, okay. Thank you. 10-2, bylaw 8. No?
No, we have to act on this.
Okay, so could I have a motion, please?
Well, we're on third
Third reading.
Your worship. So we're at second, we're at discussion.
Okay, so we're going to entertain discussion on the bylaw 18-14, LUB amendment, Lakewood Meadows. Discussion on bylaw 18-13?
Yes.
Okay. Councillors? Councillor Sobel?
Thank you. So, there are some unknowns in regards to this, application, but I'd like to remind council that this is an area structure plan and not a development permit application. Area structure plans are the big picture in regards to where we're going, and some of the areas that I take out of this area structure plan is that there's a group intent on bringing some growth to our community. And in a novel way, I might add, in a way that we haven't seen before in our community, and there's a strong suggestion that this has worked in other communities to attract a subdivision and residents who want this type of lifestyle. There's many things to look at in this, but one of the things that I like to focus on, especially when we're dealing with ASPs, is that I don't think anybody's going to disagree with us that the costs we have for our wastewater plant and our water in general in this community is expensive. It's high. We have a wastewater plant that is built for a lot more people than we have in this community, and I've always felt, and I continue to feel, that growth is one way of reducing those costs. And I like to encourage developers to come to us with ASPs that are well thought out and generally focused on increasing our population, because with that population comes many benefits. So all in all, I have nothing but support for this ASP, and thank you for allowing me this time to speak, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Sobel. Councillor Peterson?
Thank you, Your Worship. I do somewhat echo Councillor Sobel's comments with regards to this just being an area structure plan at this time, but I want to, for the record, say that I still continue to have significant issues around stormwater, particularly in that Lakewood Meadows area, and particularly with regards to issues that they've experienced in the past, specifically on the north end of the development that this council has heard about in the past. And I am concerned about the pre-annexation and future annexation. And so while I am comfortable in the area structure plan, and I've made no secret of the fact that I'm not particularly in favor of gated communities, and they've laid that to rest, and they've talked about inclusion in community. Very, very pleased to see that, and I would never ever stand in the way of increasing population that would impact our tax base. I think all of those things are very positive, and if people want to live in a community that's different and exclusive, that should be their right to be able to do so. But I believe that the next 30 years in this community, water is going to be the critical factor, whether it's stormwater, groundwater, I believe that it is going to seriously impact, and it's something that I will be paying a lot more attention to as this project moves forward, and I certainly wish the developer all the luck.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Councillor Cox?
I'm ready to move.
I just have some comments prior to that. I just want to say thank you to Neil Coulter and his team for their forward thinking. Development is welcomed in Strathmore, and I really like the combination of high and low density, affordable homes, which is something that we really need, and homes with suites, which is another thing that we need to look forward to bringing back our older generation, the people that are taking care of us now, and bring them back into our homes. And there's some communities in other areas that do this and do this quite successfully. I do also share Councillor Peterson's concerns about water, but going forward, I have the faith in our council and our administration that we're going to keep these items at the forefront of our minds going forward and make the appropriate considerations. Councillor Cox, do you want to make your motion?
Thank you, Your Worship. I would, on behalf of council, give third and final reading to bylaw 18-13.
Thank you. You've all heard. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Councillor Peterson, did you vote?
I did.
Okay, I'm sorry. The next item on the agenda is 10.3. Bylaw 18-08, LUB Amendment Bylaw, Cannabis Stores. No?
Your Worship, the next item is 10.2, bylaw 18-14.
Okay. I'm really struggling with the, the new ones. I'm sorry. So would you please repeat that?
Your Worship, I'm ready to move.
Okay. Councillor Cox?
We need to discuss.
Do you have third reading?
Yes. Your Worship, I wish that council give third reading to bylaw 18-14.
All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Next is 10-3, bylaw 10-08, LUB Amendment Bylaw, Cannabis Stores, on page 93 of your agenda. Councillor Sobel?
Your Worship, I'd move that council give second reading to bylaw number 18-08.
All in favor? Is there discussion on that motion? Councillor Sobel?
Your Worship, prior to giving second reading on this, there are a couple of areas that I would like to, that I take issue with in the bylaw, and I would like to see amended. And one of them particularly is the separation distance from schools in the central business district, which by bylaw has it at 50 meters rather than the 125 that is indicated in for the rest of schools. And I guess my biggest problem is I'm not sure why we would not treat all our, I feel that we have to treat all our schools the same. I think it's a disservice to any one school if we do not treat them the same way, and I think it's a disservice to this bylaw if we start making exceptions based on simply on the fact that it will negatively influence a business from opening. If the 125-meter separation is good for a school up on Brent Boulevard, then it should be good for the one on secondary 817, et cetera. So that is one area that I would like to see changed so that it is similar to the other schools. And other than that, that's all I have, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Peterson?
Thank you, Worship. In responding to Councillor Sobel, I respectfully disagree. I think that, I was principal of the storefront school for a long time, and so it's not a surprise to anyone that there were many young people at high risk, and we were in close proximity to, at various times, to all of the downtown hotels and drinking establishments. So when we were in the downtown, we were across from the Roadhouse, which has a liquor license, and in proximity to others as well. The current outreach school in the downtown is in proximity to 2 liquor outlets and at least maybe 3, and outlets that sell tobacco, and a vape shop as well. And they are not experiencing undue concern regarding that. And it is unusual to have a school in your downtown, so I think that they can coexist. I think that this bylaw, the 50-meter separation, is something that, if we see problems in the future, we could change it, but I don't want to over-legislate. I think that the key, the thing that I really like about this bylaw is that it doesn't marginalize anyone. It seems to lend itself to protecting everyone and respecting everyone. And for that reason, it's one of the better bylaws that I've seen across the province, that it seems to find a very, very reasonable balance that I greatly, greatly appreciate. And I think that the 50 meters, if we find it's a problem, we could change it, but we shouldn't over-legislate at this time. And just with regards to the recommendations coming forward by Alberta Health Services, I find them extremely annoying. They don't relate to this community at all. First of all, they may relate to large urbans, although I'm not really qualified to speak to that. But one of the things that annoys me the very, very most is that we have the AGLC and who said, that are overwhelmed with requests to come and speak to municipal governments, and Alberta Health Services, who are an employee of the provincial government, coming to us with very lengthy documents preaching a good message. There's no question, everybody should be safe. But they have taken a rather extreme stance, and in doing that, one of the things that I don't see here, they talk a lot about legislation, pages and pages of proposed legislation, and not a single thing about education. I haven't seen a single thing in any government document that speaks to how much of the profits realized from the businesses that are going to be coming into doing this work are going to be put into education. And anybody that's ever had a child, a teenager, or perhaps themselves know that in terms of smoking or in terms of high-risk behaviors of any kind, we all know that it's education that has made the difference, not legislation. So I have a big problem with even referencing that document, because while it's useful, it doesn't pertain to what really needs to roll out in this community, which is an understanding from this government what they're going to put into education to protect our communities. And it's something that as a member of municipal government that I will certainly work very hard to promote in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. I personally have taken a little bit more of a conservative approach to that 50-meter setback with the outreach school, and I agree with Councillor Sobel that we should have all schools equal in the town of Strathmore. It is a unique situation that we do have a school downtown, but we also need to recognize that these are vulnerable children. They're in a vulnerable population, and they're easily persuaded. Cannabis is a lot more attractive than alcohol during the day, and I have heard from concerned business owners in that strip mall area that there are students that are milling around and also going to the vape shop and back and forth. So I would support an amendment to that bylaw, just stating that we increase the 50 meters to 125, and but we will get to that later. Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will echo some of Councillor Peterson's sentiments, and I just want to say that I think that this bylaw has struck a reasonable balance, and I think that the town administration has done a good job with it. Thank you.
Councillor Cox? Go ahead. Was it you first? Again?
Okay, it's okay.
Oh, Councillor Corbeil.
No,
I'm
go
so
ahead.
sorry.
It's no big deal. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you. Councillor Corville. I too believe that our administration has done a great job in ensuring that we're fair to all of the areas that will be allowed. I see a problem more and a difference between the schools that you talk about, Councillor Sobel and Councillor Deputy Mayor Bauer, sorry, in the sense that they have large playgrounds, that kids are outside during the day, they're vulnerable in the sense that they are outside playing, and so on and so forth. Our school in the Central Business Center does not have this. If they are milling around businesses, so on and so forth, it's because they aren't supposed to be there. So I am in favor of the bylaw as it stands.
Councillor Corbeil.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a quick question, actually. On this survey that was in here, where was it
Jennifer had a number.
from? How many and where was it from? When was it done?
We did it with our, yeah.
Up there, the forum?
No.
No?
The one that circulated with the census.
Jennifer, may we ask
Oh.
you, please, Ms. Sawatsky,
Really?
when was the survey distributed
I
to
don't think
people?
so. Those weren't in the census.
The citizen survey was distributed during with the census.
The census.
Yes.
That one?
Add-on.
Oh, I did not see it when I
Thank
did.
you.
I didn't do that one. I did the other one. Oh.
Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, I do.
Councillor
No,
Corbeil?
not any other questions, but I do have a couple comments. I do agree that they did a fair job, in my opinion, with this bylaw. I think the only kind of pushback I think we're even going to get is from the extreme people who are just against the legalization of the cannabis itself. I think that if we do have issues with the schools at a later date, we can revisit. But the one downtown, we don't have controls over the liquor. We don't have controls over smoking. I don't know if it would be fair to kind of discriminate against cannabis. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Corbeil. Are there any other, Councillor Sobel?
Just a couple of quick points, Your Worship. Actually, the way the bylaw reads, I see it as discrimination in the fact that some schools only have 50 meters and some have 125. So I guess my point was for consistency. So if we're either going to bring everything, I'd like to see everything brought down to 50, which I wouldn't agree with, or everything up at 125. That's my point. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure why this would be discriminating against any businesses, because what we're trying to do is treat them all the same. And
Who was first?
the second item was this idea of revisiting this after. I'm not sure how we're going to do that. Once we have a business in place, I'm not sure how we're going to tell them to move if we do decide that they're too close.
But we can legislate,
Councillor
right?
Corbeil?
Sorry, thank you. I think we can make a little bit more restrictions as to, and maybe even operating hours or any of that kind of thing, maybe. My big difference with the schools here compared to the ones up on Brentwood Boulevard is they are allowed to roam free. Westmount is supervised and they aren't allowed to leave the schoolyard. That's where I justified it.
Councillor Montgomery?
I just wanted to, I guess, in response to Councillor Sobel's point, we have already discriminated by not having any sort of allowance around the Bow Valley College, which is mainly adult students, but many of the storefront students as well happen to be adults as well. And so I think it's reasonable to adjust our expectations and some of the rules when it's a situation that's different than these schools that, as Councillor Cox pointed out, have playgrounds and have a much younger student base. Thank you.
Do you wish to respond to that, Councillor Sobel? Okay. So then we would just vote for all in favor for second reading? Call the question? All in favor? Opposed?
You vote twice?
Yeah, I did. I meant to be opposed. And that is carried. May I have a motion for third reading, please?
I would move third reading to bylaw number 18-08, Your Worship.
Is there discussion? All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Now we will go on to 10.4, bylaw number 18-11, land use bylaw, amendment bylaw, 82nd and 86th Slater Road, in page 105 of your package.
Your Worship, I would move that council give second reading to bylaw number 18-11.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Discussion? Councillor Sobel?
So one of the areas that concerns me most about this was the neighbors' concern about grading, and I'm wondering if we could get some input from administration in regards to that issue, if it has been dealt with or considered.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Sobel. The questions about grading are right on. We want to thank Christine and her father for submitting that letter. Absolutely. We agree absolutely with 3 of the 4 points that she brought up. Regarding grades, this is going to be looked at through the development permit process, which is intended to immediately follow the land use process. We're going to have our engineer involved and a survey and engineer on their side involved to ensure that not only do the grades not direct stormwater to adjacent properties, but also do the grades match the stormwater concept for the street, and that the street drains correctly and the way it should be. Yeah. Thank you, Your Worship.
And while I get you, there was this. I'm sorry. May I just ask one additional question? There was also a question in regards to environmental study. I believe that was the word that was used. Was an environmental study? Is there any? Is there any?
That was my question.
Consideration in regards to that regard.
Councillor Sobel, thank you so much for the question. Again, part of the development permit process is going to be some conditions on site contamination, and the folks applying for a future development permit would have to prove to us that they're going to be following the provincial guidelines for fluid disposal and site contamination related matters, etc. Too. Again, this is confirmation that we're going to get at the next stage to ensure that things are protected down there. There's going to be our standard set of development permit conditions on the permit that I write to, saying that all contamination must be cleaned up to the satisfaction of us. If they come upon site contamination while they're digging, they have to notify us. There's a standard list of conditions that we'll put on, and just ensure that they're following provincial guidelines as well for this. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you.
Councillor Peterson?
So that answered my question, but I just have a clarification. So,
Absolutely.
Mr. Proctor, this letter, that is included in the bylaw then, these conditions. You mentioned the numbers of the conditions will be met in an amended bylaw, or we will move the bylaw as amended?
Your Worship, there's 4 points mentioned in Christine's letter. The salvage yard be accessible and not impede traffic on Slater Road. We've handled that through the gate question. We've met our conditions, every
Yes.
one of them except for number 3. The administration is proposing that the vehicles being stacked not exceed the height of the fence. That's our condition.
Okay.
And Christine has asked for vehicles stacked to be 2 feet less than the higher of the fence.
I understand.
That
Thank
point
you.
is very, very much up for debate tonight, if you wish. I think that we should stick with administration's recommendation, but that is totally council's call. The reason why we do a district overlay is to give you folks
Yeah.
ultimate control over this.
Thank you for the
Thank
clarification.
you.
May I just ask then, Chuck, how high is the fence currently?
The fence is proposed to be 2.4 meters in height. So I think that's
2.4
nominally
meters.
8 feet, Your Worship.
8 feet. And is that a standard fence for a salvage yard?
We've done one other salvage yard through district overlay, and that's the exact same height of fence that we asked those folks to do, nominally 8 feet, opaque so you can't see through it, intended to screen the salvage operation from the adjacent roadway and public property.
And some of salvage yards in Calgary have barbed wire on top. Is that a consideration for this particular property, or has the owner said that they do not wish to do that?
I don't think that we've got an answer yet on what type of fence. Again, it'd be confirmed at the development permit stage. I know industrial fences do have the option for barbed wire, Your Worship.
I just want to also support Mr. and Mrs. Urichuk's letter, and I'm wondering what type of reviews we'll be doing as a town, perhaps maybe after 3 months and 6 months from the time that they open, just to make sure that it stays clean, as she was suggesting that she would like to have a clean salvage yard, because there are some that are a little bit more messy. I don't know how to say that.
Absolutely, Your Worship. We can put something
Cluttered,
to that
yeah.
effect. We can come to some sort of agreement like that. I think it's at the applicant's best interest to keep kind of a clean and tidy site. Any issues with garbage and debris on public property will be handled through our community standards bylaw, etc. Looking inside their fence and the types of operations that they do is going to be up to them, but I think it's in their best interest to keep a kind of a clean and tidy site, recognizing that this is kind of an industrial operation, but we'd be more than willing to come to some sort of agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Proctor. If there are no other questions, we will go to vote on second, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. May I have a motion for third reading, please?
I move the council give third reading to bylaw number 18-11.
Discussion?
No, we don't discuss.
All in favor? And that is carried.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. All right, now we can get to the delegations. This is the part that everybody's been waiting for. The first delegation is the Chamber of Commerce. Who's going to come forward and present for the Chamber today? Hello, welcome.
Hello. Welcome. Good evening. Thank you very much. Your Worships, my name is Marcus Lehman. I'm one of the board members of the Strathmore District Chamber of Commerce. We've come here, represented also by another board member, Haley, and we've come just to give a quick overview report of the occurrences of the activities which the council is, which the board is making at the moment. Actually, I believe that there was a report done some 3 months ago by our president, Wanda Reinhold. And I won't go into detail as per the events which we've accomplished over the last year. I'll more go into sort of the vision that we have for the future. And that is that we are reformulating the strategy and the vision and objectives of the council, of the board, chamber, to promote and incentivize more business development in the Strathmore district. So we are doing everything straight from the vision and the mission statements, all the way through to the activities which the chamber is actively procuring. Now we have 7 members on the board. We are looking, actually, we are procuring other members actively to participate in the board, because as we need a quorum of 9 actually, so we are reaching out to the community, to the business community, to see if we can sort of adhere more people into the board. At this moment, we are looking to clarify what we do forward, how we can engage better the business community so as to actively promote the business development in this community. We have, at the same time, while we are doing this, so this will occur forward until December of this year, once we will implement this strategy. At that time, we will be actively engaging with the community to look at the events that will be occurring with the chamber, and also the and not only the events that we look in as public events, but actually the engagement one-to-one with the businesses. At the same time, simultaneously that we're doing this strategy, actually we are growing as a chamber. So we've taken on 5 new members in the last couple of weeks, which is amazing because we're not reaching out to the community saying we have a lot of events. So this is very positive for the chamber, and we're looking to expand this even more. At the present time, we have 84 members. That is an increase of, I believe, 14 over the last year. And we are still actually looking to engage the 25 non-paying members from the year past. So we're looking to expand even that number even in this year. So it's a busy time. It's a time of reflection for the chamber. But I think we also want to extend this sort of outreach towards the town, the council, and the town of Strathmore. We have been reaching out towards the county as well to engage as much as possible with the businesses that are out there. There are still a vast amount of businesses that are not embraced by the chamber, and we think that we can do a great job of bringing them into the mold. So I think that's about it. Is there anything else, Haley, that you would like to? All right. We'll leave it at that. Are there any questions for the?
Just thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lehman. Thanks for sharing, and we look forward to more engagement with the business community. 84 members is something to be really proud of. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Marcus.
Thank you.
Now I would like to invite Councillor Peterson to introduce our next delegation.
Thank you. It is my express pleasure to bring forth 2 people near and dear to my heart. So I say, okay, omachikoke, nidanako mawiatskimiake, akokanopa, if you could come forward. I would like to introduce first Ganaki Makesto, knowledge keeper from Siksika, and Astokami Smith, student extraordinaire and summer employment for town of Strathmore, brought together by the director of the Family Community Support Services, Linda Bernicki. Thank you, Your Worship.
You're welcome. On behalf of council, it is my great pleasure to present, and I will be bringing them up to you in a minute. We have gifts for you as a small token of our appreciation from the community of Strathmore. We are grateful to begin this process of healing and reconciliation between our communities. Kanaki, as a respected knowledge keeper from the Siksika Nation, your work with our community this summer was of great value and benefit. Your willingness to help our community gain understanding and awareness brought us to the first steps we will take on this reconciliation journey. Astokami. We heard so many good things about your input and enthusiasm within our organization. Thank you for giving freely of yourself, your youthful wisdom, and for sharing your Siksika family. You are a trailblazer, and Strathmore is very grateful for all that you have done. Please welcome, please give them a hand.
Oh, Miriam's going to want a picture, Lorraine.
Thank you so much. You're so Councillor Peterson, would you like to come?
Well, no, you just stay right up there. That's just perfect. With our
Let's take these off now.
You better smile, Miss Smith. Better see you in school if I have to be there tomorrow.
All right.
Look at our beautiful graphic.
I was actually just looking at this.
Before they sit down.
And, just stay up here for just a
Well,
moment,
or there.
please,
They can
if you
stay
don't
there.
mind.
Yeah.
Linda Bernicki, I invite you also to come up. Councillor Peterson has a presentation.
So I just want to say that Linda Bernicki, for those of you who don't know, is the Director of Family Community Support Services and many other roles. And everything that she's done in her job has reflected her commitment to inclusion, diversity, and reconciliation. And there are two words that I learned, one of my Siksika teacher, akokanopa, that we will come together, and a katsups spamote siupi, to help each other. And I think those two words reflect very much what you have accomplished in our community. And I'm really grateful to you, and grateful that we, as Lorraine mentioned, that we're on this journey together. And so in the spirit of Siksika, I would like to present you with a small token of our gratitude and really thank you for everything that you've done. Thank you. Thank you.
Just had to get in the picture.
I had to get out of the picture. I was going the other way. Takes a part of my soul every time.
Ladies, would you like the bags to take them home?
Sure.
Sure.
Here are the bags.
I think she might want to say something.
Yeah, they are. They-
All right, so I invite you now to respond. Who would like to go first?
I guess I'll be going first.
Thank you.
So one of my first contributions to Strathmore was on National Indigenous Peoples Day, which was June 21st. My grandma and I participated in the night market by providing some traditional fry bread, and so I was thankful to be a part of that. And another contribution I made was to the resource guide that Strathmore is putting together. My contribution to that was the Indigenous services provided by Siksika and Strathmore and the surrounding communities. And so far we're doing pretty good with that. We're looking into possibly translating some of it to the Blackfoot language to revitalize our language. Another thing that I have participated in was the youth center. I was able to bring in some powwow dancers to showcase a bit of our culture to these children. We also got to talk about the meaning of our outfits and regalia and what each dance means. And then after that, I was able to do some crafts and traditional teachings along with those. So we were able to make some miniature teepees, some dream catchers, and parfleche painting. I explained to them the meaning behind it and why we still do those today. And I'm still contributing to there as well, helping them supervise and doing some other crafts and teachings with that. And my focus with that was to instill that knowledge at a young age, because I think it's important, even though they are young, to know these things, to know about our culture. And then I was also fortunate to participate in the Mother Goose program. We also did the miniature teepees, and the library was able to order us some books by an Indigenous author. So we were able to support an Indigenous author as well. I was helping plan some events as well through an Indigenous lens. We are currently working towards the Alberta Culture Days next weekend. So we were able to get some Indigenous artists and food vendors. So in that way we are creating a relationship between Siksika and the town of Strathmore, and also supporting the people from Siksika.
And you've done all of this in a matter of months. Some people take years to do what you've just described. Thank you so much. Kanaki, would you like to also?
Okay. Kanaki Mikesto. My traditional name actually is Natui Kana Soyanki.
Thank you.
Anyways, I just want to share, I was asked to help in sharing some of the knowledge that was transferred to me, and we're working on doing presentations for for their group
For the lunch and learn.
lunch and learn and other activities I'm open to share because this is part of who I am. And then also want to also mention on our Treaty 7 was signed on Saturday. It would be 100 something years.
1877.
Yeah, 1877. So it's like over 100 years.
Yeah,
We celebrate 1 year. So the Treaty 7 was signed on September 22nd, 1877. So it's 2 days away, and that's what we were looking at, doing a presentation and sharing that knowledge, why that came apart, how did it come, when did it happen, what was the circumstance behind it. And then another teaching, we're still looking at doing them, is September 30th is why we have these t-shirts. Every child matters. If you don't know about the Indian residential school, I am actually a survivor. I went there for 3 years of my life. It's something that's a real big, had a big impact on our people for over 100 years. And people don't realize what that meant within the, what you would call it, the Indian Act. And it's an Indian Act that's still alive for us today. So those are some of the things that I would like, that I was sharing, that there's some things we've worked together and sharing that knowledge. As you know, Ms. Peterson, that's what we did before. And like I said, that's when somebody asked me, it's just part of my giving back, paying forward. So thank you for having me and being able to share what I can to the community of Strathmore.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can we buy the T-shirts from Siksika or online?
They are actually at the FCSS office. They are free for the staff and anyone who wants to participate. And also, it would be kindly appreciated if you would be able to bring a donation for the Siksika Food Bank when you pick up your shirt.
Oh, nice. Very good.
Maybe we can also mention too is the reason they're orange is because there's a story to it about a girl that had gotten her t-shirt taken away from her when she went to residential school and the impacts of what she went through. So.
Her name was Phyllis Webstad in 1873. She attended residential school and her grandmother gave her an orange shirt to wear for her first day. And upon her first day, upon her arrival, her shirt was taken away and she was put into the school uniform. And that made her feel that her feelings didn't matter. And so this is why we are doing this, to ensure that every child matters, everyone around us matters.
Thank you so much. I also saw that there was cultural days at the barn on September 27th, is that? Would you like to speak with that to that as well?
Yes, it was the 29th.
Thank you. 29th of September.
Yeah. So I was able to bring in Armin Duck Chief. He is a country singer from Siksika.
A famous country singer.
Yeah, definitely.
Very good.
He won an Emmy. So I was fortunate to be able to bring him in, as well as the Highway 901 band run by Frank Turningrobe. And and also Al Ray's food truck, which will be providing the traditional foods like fry bread, stew, flank, things like that. As well, they are doing a screening of Trevor Solway's film on the 27th, right? 28th. And so, and his film is kind of cool because it features Armin Duck Chief in there, as well as some other Indigenous artists.
And admission to the festival is how much?
Free.
So you bring a donation to Siksika Nation on that day as well. All right, thank you so much, ladies.
Oh yes, and
one more
so
thing.
we brought these shirts for you guys, so you can have it.
Thank you. I will wear it proudly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
September 3rd.
Oh, did you?
Grade 3.
The next presentation, I would like to welcome the Strathmore Library Board to come up, please. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Jeff. How are you? Good. It's a long night.
Yeah.
I love that these pictures are of local people. That's such a nice touch. That's Lorraine Ferran there? Yes, that's beautiful. No? Miss?
She just lives over here.
Yes.
Thank you. Laura.
She's our cover woman for our visiting library service.
So are you able to do the presentation in 10 minutes?
We'll try.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so good evening, Your Worship, Deputy Mayor Bauer, councillors, and administration. Thanks for having us here today. My name's Jeff Ball. I'm board chair for the Town of Strathmore Library Board, and I have Rachel Dick Hughes, who's director of library services. We're here today to give you a look back at our past year, how things have gone since our renovation, and what the community needs from us going forward. 2017 brought a lot of change as we moved the library to a small temporary location during our renovation. The photo on the left was taken a year ago yesterday, and the photo on the right gives you an idea of the space we occupied for 3 months last year. Because it was an extraordinary year, and we wound up closed for a month due to construction delays, we are offering you year-over-year statistics from January to August, comparing 2018 to 2017.
So my favorite statistic is a 57% increase in new membership. So we're really delighted by that. Renovations, yes, it sure does. So renovations often give you a bit of a bump, but this was far beyond what we expected. So 750 new memberships to the end of August this year, which is just really exciting for us. We also had a 50% increase in summer reading program registration. We got a lot of new memberships that way. Our staff visited schools and promoted the program, and we had parents coming to the library who had never been there before. So that was very exciting as well. Room rentals, this is a big benefit of our facility right now. So we've had 594 hours of rental time, 418 about of that has been free for different community organizations. 98 hours of that has been to the town of Strathmore, so they're also enjoying the space. I know you're very cramped for space here, so we're happy to help you out. We've done 85 exam invigilations this year already, so we have lots of students in the area. It's a lot, and it's such a gift to them, especially there are lots of young parents who just need to get those exams done. They don't want to drive to the city and park downtown and figure that all out, so it's a great service we have. Volunteer hours, we've increased to about 13 weekly volunteers at the library. So at minimum wage, the value so far this year is almost $14,000. And they're worth a lot more than minimum wage. I just like to put that forward. And they do a wide variety of things. So we have 2 young men who help with our Minecraft program because they know it and love it. We have a qualified educational assistant who does one-on-one literacy training with children who need help. We've got people who mend books, who shelve, who do all kinds of things that we really appreciate. One thing about the library now is we are much busier. The space is being used so well by families, by people who just need a place to be. And our program registrations are filling up incredibly quickly. We had our Winging It Kids Theatre program filled up in an hour and a half, and our Minecraft, which opened last Monday, filled up in 3 minutes, which is, yes, we are, but we have no deals for resale. I just want to make that clear. Yes, so we're struggling to keep up with the demand, but we're having a really good time.
So in 2016, we worked with a facilitator from Alberta Culture who helped us, along with extensive community consultation, to come up with, to form our plan of service for 2017 through 2019. And we're well on our way to meeting the targets that were associated with those service responses. We added early literacy programming through grant funding from the United Way. There were partnerships with Parent Link Centre and 5 for Life Early Childhood, which allowed us to launch the fund the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program. which encourages children or parents to read regularly with their children. We have comfortable space for residents and visitors to visit. Patrons have told all the staff at the library how much they appreciate having a place where they can come and be around other people. Residents are making connections with each other, setting up play dates, building friendships, and because the space is here for them to connect. There are learning opportunities. We've increased our educational opportunities for adults, as you can see in the October program handout that was included. Recent programming has included financial literacy, health education, and child development, and the library continues to offer one-on-one digital literacy training about 4 times a week. Finally, increased collaboration. This year we have particularly increased collaboration with FCSS and the town of Strathmore, and we continue to find ways to work together to enhance one another's services. Staff are being trained on other community resources so they can better refer patrons who need assistance. Fewer people getting the runaround, rather getting directly where they need to be for the help or resource they need. So, in terms of well-being, the town's mission is to provide services that promote the well-being of our community. Our services provide opportunity for engagement. They address isolation through things like the stitching group, visiting library, and children's play space. For learning, through early literacy programming, working with parents to find books to get reluctant readers reading, exam invigilation, language learning groups, and sign language groups. For increased digital literacy, through things like tech tutoring, leadership, through Teen Advisory Council and SRP volunteers, and to expose people to different cultures and ideas.
So the town has a priority right now to support arts and culture, and we think that we're a big part of that. We provide language learning, art exhibit space for local artists. We do features and readings for local authors, provide acting and craft programs for children, musical theater programs for children and teens. And as you heard, we are collaborating with the town of Strathmore and other local organizations for Alberta Culture Days. So due to our partnership with the town, particularly Linda Bernicki and Lauren McGugan, we secured $4,000 in provincial funding for the events of September 28th and 29th. So as was mentioned, we're screening the Intertribal series by Trevor Solway Friday night at the library. And we're also hosting a family history writing workshop the Friday afternoon. So we're also focusing on collaboration, and a big way that we do that is by sharing our space. So we've shared space with Step 1 Housing, the Crisis Shelter, the Heal Coalition, Immigration Society, Five for Life Early Childhood, Prospect Employment, Better Choices, Better Health, Youth Justice Committee, the Advocacy in Motion Society, different homeschool groups, Seniors Coffee, the Happy Gang, and others. We've also shared our expertise, so here's just a bit of a demonstration of some of the marketing we've done for different groups in Strathmore. We did the Caregivers Support Group, Seniors Week, Happy Gang brochure, etc. We also share our platforms, so we have about 1,000 followers on Facebook, and we try to promote our partners' programming as much as we can.
So, Your Worship and councillors, we do recognize that your investment in the library does go a long way. Over 4,000 people have attended library programs already this year. Over 84,000 items have been borrowed. There have been over 9,600 computer sessions and 34,000 logins to the wireless. All of this has been for your investment of $20.10 per capita this year. There was a 2013 study on the Toronto Public Library by Martin Prosperity Institute that we referred to, which found the City of Toronto received a return of investment of over 460%. Noting that these results also are comparable to other studies of library systems around the world. This just happened to be the first Canadian one that studied economic impact. So spending locally, even if it costs a bit more, and only outsourcing when needed, part of our role is to support the local economy, ensuring that as much of your investment as possible stays in Strathmore. And we do want to recognize how the town has helped. Through an expanded facility, we still receive regular comments on how beautiful and functional the library is now. The community really does love it. The temporary space to operate during the renovation, our patrons sincerely appreciated having a place to go and having continued uninterrupted access to the resources they need. In in terms of compost and waste reduction, we're the first commercial compost site in Strathmore. And through composting, our custodian has worked hard to reduce our waste to one garbage bag per week. Through subsidized first aid training for staff, we've saved hundreds of dollars, so we thank you for that. Increased collaboration, particularly with Linda at Social Supports, and partnering with Astokami Smith, Indigenous Liaison student. And finally, excellent building maintenance through Shane McKenzie we want to recognize.
So there are more ways that we hope we can work together to enhance the services and programs that we offer to the community moving forward. His Worship the Mayor, Pat Fuel, came to visit me after a trip to Halifax, very excited about the way the municipality and the library work together there. And so we talked about better integration of the library as a municipal service. So the example he gave was Halifax had a bike week. And so then at the same time, the library put on a bike maintenance workshop. And they had feedback boards about cycling in Halifax and how people felt about it. So I think there's a lot of room for us to grow in that area. I was thinking about the introduction of composting. And I feel like we missed, but could catch up on an opportunity there to educate the community and to help promote the message that you want to get out there, because we have really great access to a whole lot of people, and I think right now we're underutilizing that.
So to keep to the time, I'll just skip forward a bit. We do have increased costs with the larger library. It's just over 2 times larger in square footage than it was before the renovation. Increased costs include janitorial, alarm, public washroom supplies, rugs, etc. That weren't covered by the dollar per capita increase we received for 2018. So this year we did do more with less, but it's not sustainable going forward. We're not equipped with enough staff to serve the public as effectively as we wish. Rachel had a patron tell her that they occasionally leave without checking out their items because the wait time at the circulation desk was too long. Low wages and limited work hours make retention of excellent staff a challenge. People who work at the library do it because they love it, not necessarily because they're looking to get rich. And as you can see on the last page of the handout we provided, our 2018 funding is still $5 per capita short of the 2015 average for similarly sized libraries. And in fact, in this population bracket we're in, we rank 16th of 18 in terms of local per capita appropriation. So, again, to keep to the time, I will keep this brief. If we were going into your budget discussions, to meet the community needs, our ideal ask would be a $5 per capita increase. It would allow us to give a wide variety of programming for all ages, regularly presented by local experts, workshops, guest speakers, and guest authors. We could increase Indigenous programming, increase sessions of very popular, as we found out, programs such as Minecraft, new programs in response to demand from the community, public access to fast and efficient technology. We could keep exam invigilation and room rental fees affordable, providing free room rentals to those organizations who need it or qualify, and enhanced staffing levels that we need. We do demonstrate, and I'll skip through these, but to maintain a slow amount of growth, we would be asking for a $3 per capita increase, which would just come with less ability to meet the demands that we face. And finally, a $1 per capita increase would allow no additional programming and likely cuts to everything from staff, programming, and technology.
So the future that we envision for Strathmore is a community that's educated with plentiful early literacy programming that extends into high-quality free programs for all ages and abilities. We envision a Strathmore that's entrepreneurial. I'd like to share with you a quote we received on our survey last month. Somebody who is very thankful for all the books he gets from the library. He said, "I'm a beekeeper and I recently thought that I should be getting into making my own soap from the beeswax. I got 5 books out about it and discovered that it is not something I want to pursue. But what did it cost me? Time, effort, and energy, but no regrets. If I had bought the 5 books just to discover I wasn't interested, I would have felt like I'd lost money. I would even feel pressured into taking the next step because of that investment. The other side of the coin is that maybe I would never think of creative endeavors like making soap because I would have to spend that initial money on books to get that information. Because of the library, I can stay curious and look into new ideas without worry." We also envision a future that's inclusive. Access to free resources, technology, and programming at the library ensures that no one is left behind or excluded based on their income level. Another quote from our survey: "The library is the hub of our community, no matter what faith, profession, ethnicity, or age a person is. Everyone is welcome and made to feel that way." So thank you for taking the time to hear from us. Do you have any questions?
I just want to say thank you to you as well. Turn on my mic there. Thank you very much, Jeff and Rachel, and thank you to Carmen for doing the presentation. I talked to her today, and I just want to say hi, Carmen. I know you're watching. How many paid new memberships did you receive this year?
That's a good question. I haven't looked at the free membership numbers lately, but I would imagine at least 2/3 are paid. But I would have to double check those numbers.
And the reason I'm asking is just with a 57% increase in new memberships, I'm wondering how many of those were paid versus given out. Because as being a part of your library board, I know that we have approved quite a number of different free memberships.
Absolutely.
And I would support continuing that in the community.
Yes.
Also, how much was budgeted for revenue for the rental time?
So we budgeted, I don't have my budget number. I think we budgeted around $5,000, and up to the end of June, we'd taken in $3,000. So we're ahead on that.
And have you looked at the cost per square foot that you're currently renting and the averages in this area and provincially? Are you sitting high, low?
We're quite low, for our rental fees. But we want to make sure that room is accessible to the people who need it. So it's not, we don't believe it's in the community's interest for us to look at it so much as a money-making venture, as a way to facilitate other groups and doing what they need to do, whether it's launching a business by running their fitness classes or throwing a birthday party for their child. We just want to make sure that space is there for the people who need it.
Thank you very much. Councillors, are there any questions? We'll start, who was first? Councillor Peterson?
Thank you, Your Worship. So I know that before Councillor Bauer usurped my place on the library board, there was we had managed a year-over-year budget increase. Just for my clarification, is that over now? Because I know that in our town budget, and I can't remember the years. I don't know if 2018 was the last year for that. We were doing year-over-year increases of
2020. I thought it went to 20.
I'm not sure. We can look into that. So there was already, and there's no reason why you would possibly know that. But from a council perspective, I know that when our head of financial management did planning, we were talking about certainty around your budgeting and our budgeting, and how we needed to build that into 3-year strategic planning processes. And so there is something there. I don't know that it's equivalent to the ask. And I guess we should have anticipated that with a larger building, there was going to be increased costs. I was just grateful that you didn't come here and ask for more room, because I thought that's where you were headed.
We did have 2 survey comments asking for a larger library.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to say relative to the rentals, and I know that your rental costs are low, but they're commensurate with everything else in the community. And one of the things that I've heard in appreciation are other vendors in the community that have rooms for rent. They're appreciative that they're not free. That you are charging for them, and so that you're your fair practice, and they're really appreciative of that, because there's other venues and business endeavors that are not competitive. The other thing, I guess, going forward in terms of the ask for the money, there is no question that the return on investment in libraries is extraordinary. But this library is even more extraordinary. And I know that because when I go to Marigold, one of the things that members are required to do is to speak on behalf of initiatives in the library. And after the last meeting, a member from a very large library of one of our 43 municipalities said, "You know what? I wish you'd just write your report and submit it, because we're really sick of hearing how good Strathmore is." And I just want to say, and congratulations to you, this is an extraordinary library. And when you sit at the Marigold table and you see it in terms of 43 other municipal libraries, you're extraordinary. And what you're doing is extraordinary. And it can't be overemphasized. one of the things I'd like to think about going forward is a memorandum of understanding with the library in terms of how we interact together in terms of this collaboration or this collaboratory going forward. We've talked about utilizing the library as a central space for our citizens to be able to speak to issues in the community, good, bad, and indifferent. The red chair concept and being able to have that. We think that would be a wonderful opportunity, but of course, we're a little out of the way over here, and we think you're not. And that's something that we'd really like to look at. That would be a service that you could provide for the town in exchange for asks that you're coming forward with. We'd really like to look into that. And the other thing that I think is a gap in our community when you talk about inclusion is the LGBTQS perspective. And we have an event coming up, I think, hopefully in October the 12th. And we really see that as a community still that really could use that extra assistance in bringing them into full inclusion and appreciation for diversity and community. Would really like to utilize your expertise in being able to do that, because I know it already is a place that is welcoming and inclusive, but I'd like to enhance that. And so I'd be very in favor of moving ahead with a memorandum of understanding into the future. Thank you. And I really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Councillor Sobel?
Thanks. Yeah, you guys exhausted me with your report. Well done. And just to echo Councillor Peterson, I also had the feeling that you were coming for extra room. So if it's only a bump in the
Just a check.
But specifically in regards to checking out of books, and I haven't really thought about this very much, but I wonder if you guys have even considered an automated checkout system.
Yeah.
Is that something that's I can see some difficulties with it, but I can also see a lot of benefits with it, and it certainly would be something that I would use. I use it at co-op all the time. And so we.
It's definitely something to consider. It's quite a significant cost investment initially, which we've never been prepared to do. But I think as we continue to grow, it is definitely a possibility.
Thanks very much, you guys. Great job.
I do, if I may, through the chair, the last few times I've been in the library, I've actually engaged the person at the checkout, or not the checkout, at the counter at the circulation desk, and I, to echo through the chair, Your Worship, what Councillor Peterson said, just they're just an incredible group of people, and I'm honored to represent them as board chair, and just the personnel the skills that the personnel demonstrate are really a service to the community as well. So.
And I just want to say thank you to both of you for coming to us early and for allowing us to make this a part of our upcoming budget considerations. We won't be going into budget until October, and I'm really thankful that you were able to put together this presentation and let us know now how we can accommodate you.
Thank you.
Oh, one quick question.
Just in response to when people leave the library without checking out the book, do they take the book with them? I was just wondering.
We hope not.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, actually. I know they are.
All right, so I just would like to say thank you for everyone who came as a delegate, and we're going to continue the meeting. Does, oh my gosh, we have one more. I'm not going to forget about you guys. Strathmore Gymnastics Center, would you like to come up as our last delegate?
See you next week.
You waited all this time.
2 hours.
So I'm we've tried to keep this as close to 10 minutes as possible.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
I would. My name is Carly Flaws. I'm with the Strathmore Gymnastics Center.
Hello, Carly.
Thank you to the council for hearing from us again. Last time that we spoke to you was back in the spring when we were where's my presentation? Will it just come up? Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, okay. So before we get it started here, so we have this running sort of on a, just a flip through, not necessarily a PowerPoint that's timed, because the last half of our presentation is a video. We decided that a video would be a better way for us to show you what this kind of facility would mean to this community. All of the pictures, all of the people in this video are all locals. This was all made at things with our gymnastics programs, with our pop-up play dates that we've been doing in the last few months. So this is all local people. The adults and the kids are all from Strathmore. So last time when we were here, where we started, so this current business, sorry, I'm pretty nervous if you can't tell, so please bear with me. The current business where the gymnastics facility is right now is going to be closing as of December 1st. So currently there are no gymnastics programs being offered in the town of Strathmore. Is it running there? Good, okay. When we came to you, we were just a group of parents from the Strathmore Silhouettes Gymnastics Club who wanted to keep gymnastics going in Strathmore. We wanted to create a not-for-profit where we could still offer gymnastics. Where we are now, we have a full board. We have a new name. As you can see, we are the Strathmore Gymnastics Centre. We have a business plan, and we're going to be signing a lease on the facility to be running starting January 1st is our plan. We have a recreational program director, securing new equipment, and plans to open in January. Program options that we have planned for January include infant childhood programs that are designed specifically for little ones 0 to 4. We have an early childhood educator who is going to be teaching these classes. Infant child drop-ins, child-teen recreational programs through Chan Gym. I know, can we just stop it for a second? Thank you. Youth drop-ins, adult game nights and drop-ins, caregiver childhood fitness programs, senior stay fit and active programs, community events such as play dates, coordination with other not-for-profits such as Five for Life and Growing Families, birthday parties, event hosting, and community mobile soft play and bouncer and parachute party setups. What began as a desire to keep gymnastics in Strathmore has turned into a desire to create a community space that will engage our community in healthy lifestyles and connection through programs for infant childhood. Like we said, Parent and Me, we're really trying to focus on that 0 to 4 age group. Those kids, parents, as well as all the way through the spectrum. Youth drop-ins, thanks, you can help me with this. Mentorships, coaching programs for kids. Now I need to go to the next slide. Can you stay here and just help me with this? This is my tech person who's... adult fitness classes, drop-in classes, space for corporate private team building events, seniors fitness classes, special needs accommodations. We really want to include everyone in Strathmore in this new facility. All ages and abilities programming and community events, including birthday parties, fundraisers, homeschool programs, school board field trips, and as we've said, a space for other not-for-profits to use, such as Five for Life. Facility adds to the amenities of the town of Strathmore, has to offer when attracting new residents. I know for a fact from speaking to people who are new in town that they look to see, does the town they're moving to have a gymnastics facility? Providing services in our town which will reduce the amount of people traveling into Calgary to access services. I'm a mother of 3 kids, and I can tell you how many times we've driven into Calgary to do drop-in at gymnastics facilities, at ninja gyms, at bouncer places, because we don't have that to offer in Strathmore. I would much rather be in my own town using my own facilities, but we go where we can get the access to that. It keeps our funding and it keeps our resources local. It's a space to provide training to our local youth, offering them mentorships, job opportunities, and training that can serve them in the future. So what have we done so far? We have a board in place. We have a recreational program director who is standing right next to me here, and a competitive program director. We have coaches and instructors lined up to teach our programs. We're actively sourcing out grant opportunities. We're working with Community Futures on grant proposals and funding sources. We're engaging local business with sponsorship requests. Individuals from our board have invested their time and their own funds towards the purchase of new equipment, advertising, promotions, and community engagement. For advertising, we were in the parade, we're at Revs, we were in the Newsy Neighbor, and we have a large social media presence. We've presented to the Lions Club and made contact to speak with Wheatland County. We're hosting a swap and shop fundraiser on September 29th and a hypnotist on October the 20th. We're selling Admazing coupon books and working with Macaroni Kids for our community pop-up play dates. As a group, we've acquired approximately 40% of our equipment needs so far. So how can you support us? We are looking at needing approximately $130,000 for new equipment, cleaning, and renovation of the space that we are going to be taking over. Operationally, we will be self-funding through our programs. We would like to ask the town support us through buying the new floor, which will be about $25,000. A preschool-specific gross motor development equipment, which is approximately $5,000, and a large bouncy house, which we've sourced out at $3,500. As these pieces of equipment will provide the most versatility to make this a community use space. You can also support us through partnering in the social economy loan. So Community Futures has told us that they presented this to the council back in the spring. Individuals and businesses can take out a loan, so $3,000, $5,000, or $7,500 from Community Futures, and the town would commit to pay the interest at the end of the 3 years of the loan. This will allow for individuals and smaller community businesses to be able to be a part of this opportunity by allowing greater ability to access donatable money. The town currently provides support for multiple sports through facilities for hockey, ringette, lacrosse, figure skating, swimming, water polo, curling, baseball, soccer, dryland training for all these sports. But none of these facilities have the ability to support gymnastics and the vision that we have for this community use space. We're asking for support not only for gymnastics as a sport, but for gymnastics as a basis for all sports, for healthy lifestyles, gross motor development, multi-generational activities, and fitness for all ages and abilities. We are asking the town of Strathmore to provide us a foundation and a home for this opportunity. So now we'd like to invite you to watch the video that this lady next to me has spent hours toiling over to put together. And as I said, it's all community people in this video.
preschool, recreational, developmental, and competitive gymnastics. Infant, toddler, early childhood education. Childcare, caregiver, fitness. Drop-in plays. Community events. Birthday parties. Youth programming, youth mentorships, adult games nights and adult drop-ins, corporate team building events, multi-generational grandparent programs, and senior stay fit and active programs, and so much more.
Turning the world upside down and building lifelong friendships while working together to raise strong, young, active members of our community. Together we walk towards the future of Strathmore.
Thank you for your time, and we welcome any questions that we have from council.
Councillor Collins. Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a kind of a clarification question. Your original ask was 130,000, but then you broke it down into.
That's what we're asking. That's what we are hoping that the town can support us with. So 130,000 is what we'll need to get everything up and going. We've been doing a lot of that work ourselves. Like I said, through asking for town support, through community futures, but we decided we needed to come to the town with something specific, not just we need your help. That this is what we need help with that we feel will benefit the community the most.
Right, but you are asking for 130,000, but then in your next paragraph
No.
you asked for 25,
Yeah,
35,
I'll clarify.
and 5.
We're not asking for $130,000.
Okay,
That's the amount that we have determined is that we need to raise. But
Okay.
the smaller amounts are what we're coming to the
So the
town.
25, the 5, and the 35.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Sobel?
Thanks, and thank you, Carly, and people.
This is my whole tribe in the back here, so.
Well, congratulations, you guys are moving right along. Carly, did I hear you say you had a business case?
A business plan.
Business plan?
Correct, yeah.
Is it possible to get a copy for council?
Can we get a copy? Yes, we can.
I'd love to see that.
Okay, yeah.
My only, and I'm hoping it addresses this, my only concern is whether or not there's been any research in regards to whether there's community interest in this project. I suspect there is.
Yes.
But I don't know that for sure. I know for sure that there will be a lot of interest in a gymnastics group for this facility.
Mm-hmm.
But your movie and your presentation goes way outside that realm.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of groups, and I'm curious as to how you identified those groups and whether or not there's any history or facts to support that these groups would be interested. I'm trying to find out how successful this organization would be.
I'm going to invite Abby to speak to that. She's our recreational program director.
Thank you.
Yes.
So my name's Abby McCall. I actually run Macaroni Kids, and I run Mom Time, which is a mom group program around town. And for the last 5.5 years, I've lived in Strathmore and been a part of a mom community and listened to desires and wants and wishes for what's in the community. So just as the library provides that vast literacy program, there is a huge desire for a larger physical literacy program in town. And with my background, and then with our certified coach, her background, I believe that we can provide that. We have been running community pop-up playdate events, and our first one, I planned for 30 kids, thought we might get 20. We had 68 children for a 1 hour. Literally told them the night before, I'm gonna do this, put it up there. Tara and I went, and we had 68 kids, and that was crafts and physical, like general movement for children to do tumbling and things like that. So there is definitely a desire for that activity.
So is all that in your business plan?
No, it's not.
I
Okay.
came on with them
Yeah.
after
Okay.
the beginning of their business plan.
Yeah, so.
And I don't mean to be critical
Oh, no,
here,
no,
but
no, absolutely.
But that would be the stuff that I would really
So
be looking at.
when we started the business plan, as we came to you back in the spring, we actually weren't allowed to even say anything. We
Right.
were told we weren't allowed to talk about it. We got our business plan out soon after we were actually able to say something, but we had to get that to Community Futures first before we could even start moving forwards. And we've come a long way since that initial plan was made. So I would love to give you a copy of it, and that's definitely something that we can add more to. To speak of the programming that was in town before, the previous facility had over 1,000 children came through their recreational programs and their drop-in programs, and that was a for-profit business. We're expanding our programming vastly beyond what was offered in the town of Strathmore for the last 10 years. We're hoping to make it, like I said, a multi-use space that we will have programming every day.
Those are really important numbers.
We want to better use that daytime space, like the daytime space for the stay-at-home parents. We want to use that space better by providing those early childhood programs and by having third-party fitness instructors come in and providing qualified childcare. So we want to use the space all the time because we want to run it as a not-for-profit, which means we want to run it for the community.
Thank you.
Councillor Corbeil?
Thank you, Your Worship. Are you guys, is it still the same space? Are you moving?
No, we will be moving into the space that did house Jump House Gymnastics, which is closing on December the 1st.
Okay, one question. And then my other one, are you, I'm just looking for clarification on one of your points. Are you willing to work with other sports groups to, for the dryland training and stuff?
Absolutely, yeah. The reason that we're even asking for things like the floor is because the floor is something that can be used for not just gymnastics and tumbling and all those sort of things, but it's a great space for karate, for dryland training, for any martial arts, for fitness, a floor is such a multi-purpose piece of equipment. And we want this facility to be used by anyone who needs a space, who wants a space.
So we have made contact with a few different fitness instructors in town who have been looking for places to run daytime programming. And the holdback always is that daytime programming needs childcare because the ones that are looking for that programming typically have small kids with them, right? So providing an opportunity and already having spoken to business owners and fitness instructors in town that are interested in that.
And I just want to say thank you guys. This is a huge task in itself to try to, fill this hole in this community. It's a big part. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Peterson?
I heard you mention that you were seeking not-for-profit status, or you are not-for-profit?
We are not-for-profit, so we will be, the Parents Association for the Strathmore Silhouettes Gymnastics Club was already a pre-existing not-for-profit, which will be moving into...
So you're seeking your own society status as we speak then, as a...
Do we have, I'm going to ask somebody else to come up and speak on this too.
I'm the treasurer.
Thank you.
We are currently a not-for-profit corporation, the Strathmore Silhouettes Parent Association. We're going to expand our operations to take over the full scope of operations that we're looking at under the Strathmore Gymnastics Center.
I see.
So you're just changing your name?
Effectively, yeah.
Thank you.
I would like to ask if your gym center, the current gymnastics center, is leaving you behind any equipment, or if you have approached them to purchase any of the equipment at a reduced cost.
So we have been back and forth with the previous owners quite a bit. We actually had the equipment. We had someone come in and appraise the equipment because it is quite old, the stuff that's in there. The current owners are taking the floor with them to their new facility. And a lot of the other equipment needed a lot of work, and the amount that they were asking for it wasn't anywhere close to what it was actually appraised at. So we made the decision that it wasn't worth spending all this money on equipment that was going to fall apart, and some of it is actually falling apart, that it would be a better investment for us to try to get, it's not brand new equipment, some of it is brand new, some of it we have sourced out from other gym clubs, from trampoline places, from, I mean, we've been looking all over Canada, to be honest, for a lot of this equipment, and as I said, we've got about 40% of it. So we've been working really hard to get equipment that will not just serve the immediate needs, but will last, so that we're not having to put a large amount of money into new equipment down the road.
I really appreciate that. Thank you. And you know the equipment that's there right now, so it must have been a very difficult decision. It sounds kind of odd that they would take all their old stuff with them, but
yeah. We won't go into that.
Can I just say?
Yes.
From a community perspective, the parents that I've talked to, they're very happy to hear that we're purchasing new equipment because of the safety and cleanliness factors that were observed in the other facility.
Good point. Yeah. And will the cheer group be staying?
No, the cheer group is moving to its own separate facility.
So she's actually migrating her business from gymnastics into cheer. So that is kind of what caused the shift, is that she's migrating that business focus into cheerleading, and they needed a cheer specific space, which then left gymnastics.
And then today on CBC, there was quite a lengthy report on gymnastics clubs and the viability, with a special regard to the trampolines. And how are you finding that with the insurance for the trampolines? Have you included that in your budget projections?
The way that we're addressing that is we've decided there will only be one trampoline, and it will not be open to anyone but the competitive program because of the insurance needs. And I don't know if anyone else saw that thing on CBC, that this is the new reality of gymnastics, is the safety concerns with trampolines are just too high. And so really most clubs are going that they're only going to be opened to competitive kids who are competitive or competitive recreational purely on trampolines. We will have a trampoline in there, but it will not be open. The way we're addressing this is through the bouncy house. So birthday parties, because I know the trampolines are a huge selling point, but we are planning to get a bouncy house, a large industrial bouncy house with the slides that will fill that space that we can't do with trampolines. We're also hoping that bouncy house can be used as that we can travel with it to other community events, so that it's not purely just for the gymnastics center, but we would love to be able to take it if people want to rent it and we can come with them. I mean, I know there's lots of things around that, and we're addressing all of those issues as well, but it's a good question, because that's the
Thank
reality
you.
of gymnastics.
Well, I just want to commend you, parents. Starting an organization from grassroots level is a difficult thing to do, and to see that you have so much support here is fantastic. And I personally think that you have so much to offer this community, and I would be very supportive of including this in our upcoming budgetary projections and when we're looking at budget next month. So thank you for your presentation. And that's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would like to ask councillors, would you like to have a 2 or 3 minute recess for bio breaks, or are you good to continue on? You're good?
I'd like to make a motion that we extend the meeting to 10:30.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. We will vote on that. All in favor? Yes, we are all staying till 10:30.
You can't leave.
I'd like to go to number 5 on the agenda, confirmation of minutes. May I have a motion to accept minutes?
Yes.
That's got to be a record.
So move.
We've never ever confirmed minutes at 9:30 before.
No.
No. Councillor Cox?
So moved, Your Worship.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. That is carried. And we have no tabled items. Items from administration. I'd like to look at number 7.1, Economic Development Officer Contract. I believe that's Ryan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have no great video. My apologies.
With sunflowers.
Absolutely.
We'd like to see you with sunflowers in your toes upside down, Ryan, one day.
With respect, Your Worship, no one wants to see that.
I was going to say it too.
Your Worship, I will again try to make my remarks brief and discussion substantive. This issue, sort of the provision of an economic development officer for Strathmore, has been one that's been discussed for a number of years, and certainly since I've started my time with this community. It was the key item identified in the 2015 economic development study. It was a key item identified in the 2017 development review, and it was even the third place item in the list of priorities in the most recent citizen survey, after lower taxes and better roads. We can help with one of those. This has been a side-of-desk project for a lot of Strathmore staff, myself included. You know, and I will be honest and candid with council, even though we are on camera. It has suffered because of that. I only have so much time to accord to this. I think Director Simpson dealt with this before, and she felt the same way. There are initiatives coming out of it, things like the night markets, things like that great package Ms. Sawatsky and her team put together last week with regards to advertising, but there really is no clear thrust. There's no cohesion. And what concerns me probably more is Strathmore's neighbours are really active in this field. Chestermere has an active function, Okotoks, High River, Brooks Newell, and of course Airdrie has a very large function. County of Wheatland is even engaging in their economic development strategy. I think their open house is the 13th, I want to say. We are kind of the hole in the donut, and in a lot of ways in terms of this, in terms of activity on this, and it is noteworthy, and I think it is noted. You know, I speak to developers a lot. I speak to realtors, just talking about the general business climate in Strathmore, and one of the things that does get mentioned a lot, and this part isn't scientific. I do rely on other parts for more data, but there's this feel that Strathmore isn't promoting itself. That, you know, you go to the Calgary airport, and I know that Calgary airport way better than I ever hoped, and there are those Airdrie Superman signs everywhere. Okotoks has, you know, a really slick marketing campaign, really good presence, and Strathmore is kind of left behind. Yeah. I personally and staff are always very sensitive about asking for sort of cost commitments from council. And this is a fairly substantive ask, but what staff really want to propose is grabbing the bull by the horns here, attacking this fully and fulsomely, and looking at a 2-year contract position, either probably late 2018, early 2019, looking at a 2-year contract with a clear ending date, so it's not something that there's the expectation that it automatically turns permanent, but so that the ultimate decision falls to this council. Oh, Councillor.
Do you have a question, Councillor Cox? Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. My understanding, just from my own little bit of research, 2 years is kind of short. Economic development officers have a really hard time producing results in 2 years.
Your Worship, that is absolutely correct, and this is one that I personally struggled with a bit. we've wanted to give this council the opportunity to determine if the function was worth continuing. If it is something that you want to maintain, and that does limit us to the council term. However, and the 2 years, it is a bit of a balancing act, because I worry that it may be tough attracting a really competent candidate, and it may be tough seeing results. However, it was felt that this council should be the ultimate arbiter of the success, or if it's a function not worth pursuing further. So that was the reasoning. It can be extended or shortened, but that was staff's reasoning behind the number.
But our term is for another 3 years.
Your Worship, yes, yeah, that's it. This council will be around in 2021 as well. So that would be an extension. Going to 3 years would still make that final decision fall within this group's term.
Thank
you. So, Your Worship, yeah, with regards to that, it's a function that staff see value in. I'm an old EDO. There was value in doing a lot of tourism. There was value in promoting the community. And oddly enough, economic development also ends up being a lot of your point liaison with the local First Nation. I was the staff liaison to the Okanagan Indian Band and the West Bank First Nation when I was in the capacity. It's one that, because so many initiatives flow very naturally out of there, it ends up being your thin edge of the wedge for that liaison perspective. So the goal would be, of course, to, assuming council wants to pursue this further, to come to council with a really clear plan showing what the key objectives for this person would be. It wouldn't be left nebulous. Probably with a focus on tourism, promotions, and business friendliness. That would also tie really well, especially that last one would tie really well into the MDP preparation, because that's something that our new manager of planning has actually brought up, wanting to tie business friendliness into the MDP. And there would be a requirement for at least quarterly reports to council, as well as reports to probably the Downtown Vitalization Committee and the Tourism Committee, so to keep sort of information flowing that way and results flowing that way. So staff's recommendation here is that council direct admin to include a requisition for the additional funding in the 2019 and 2020 budget years. Obviously would be a decision for the 2019 budget. And that council direct administration to begin that process of engaging an EDO for the town of Strathmore on a 2-year contract. And further, that quarterly updates be provided to this body starting in January of 2019, depending on when the body individual starts, on the progress of the ECDEV function to the town of Strathmore. This is very much grabbing the bull by the horns, and it is probably a bit abrupt on the staff's part, but just with the results of the citizen survey in mind, it really was time to strike when that iron was hot and bring this matter to council's attention. So, thank you, Your Worship.
You're welcome. Are there any questions? Who was first?
Mel.
Melanie.
Mel was.
Councillor Corbeil.
Thank you, Worship. Actually, it was speaking with Councillor Cox and with what you said. I was just looking for more specific task and details as to and what was it kind of expected and how you were going to judge, after 2 years, really if it was beneficial or not. I think it'll cross a lot of borders, kind of sort of with our communications with this. I think that it would tie a lot of different whatever you want to call it, all of those together. I would support it. I just want a little bit more information.
Thank you. Councillor Sobel?
Thank you. I've always been kind of on the fence in regards to an ECDEV officer. I like the concept, but I know too many situations where there's been a lack of success in that regard, and I know also I'm aware of municipalities in our province who are getting rid of their ECDEV officers for that reason. They are not the magic bullet that we think they are. And for that reason, and that reason only, I absolutely think the 2-year contract is brilliant. there's no reason why we cannot extend this contract, but I would be expecting some results within that 2-year period, and it would be a council decision as to whether or not we can extend. Whether or not we have a difficulty acquiring the right person in that period is another question. But if we don't, then we only have 2 years to deal with that. So I think that's brilliant, and I think there's a budget in place that you've brought in, and I believe I read somewhere where there's 3 focuses on where this individual is going to be focused on, and I agree with those. So all I can say is well done, and I do hope we stay with the 2 years. Thank you.
Councillor Peterson?
I would echo that. Certainly, I think a 2-year, but I'd like to build into the motion an option for extension, just so that when you're hiring, you have that opportunity. But also that the option for a contract extension, of course, would be based on a performance review that the supervisor would have in place, as you've already, I think, fleshed out very well for us. But in terms of the $120,000 for the budget years upcoming, one of the things I'd like to point out is that this administration has worked with incredible diligence, for the most part without a deputy CAO, which was more than this money. And so we've already cut a lot of costs in terms of our administration operations over the tenure of this recent administration. And I think that that's a consideration for me in moving forward with this. But I'm prepared to move a motion with a small amendment after discussion, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Councillor Montgomery, do you have anything to add? I have a couple things. As you know, Ryan, one of my the platforms that I ran on was to try and secure an economic development officer for this town when I ran for council. And I'm very excited with this proposal. I do think that 3 years would allow that individual a little more lead time. I worry about measuring success because I don't know if you would just guarantee success in terms of revenue that you bring in for the town, and how you would measure that. Would you measure that with development, like how many people are coming into your town and purchasing property, or would you measure it in terms of tourism dollars, and how would we collect that data? Do you have any answers for that?
Your Worship, probably some, and we'll see what we can do here. It is, and as I say, having been in those shoes, it is really difficult to measure the on-the-ground outcome, and ultimately sometimes you are left with, you're in the position, you're excited about it, and the 2008 level event hits, and nothing anyone can do can change that. So what sort of best practices are to, and what we've worked with this council to set up would be, let's set up our performance measurements based on, a little ECDEV strategic plan, and sort of build a very simplified balanced scorecard on that. So, council would set out, what are the projects we want this individual to put together? Would it be, establishment of a business database? Would it be advertisement in X number of publications, or X number of hits on the website, on an economic development website? So we start to establish the metrics and make them measurable. Some of them will be project-based, some of them will be measurable sort of website hits, or touches at trade shows, phone calls coming in, that sort of thing, and keep them fluid and reasonable. And that's why we would pitch that quarterly report. It doesn't make sense if we set a measure that isn't quantifiable or is completely unrealistic. This will be somewhat new territory for Strathmore. So look at project-based, look at sort of activity-based measures of success, and the results are harder to measure. But we probably look at activities-based measures of success, and also just interactions with the local business community, our own feel in terms of the business climate, and some of those more subjective things.
the town currently budgeted $122,000 for economic development activities. I'm not sure if that's going to be enough because those funds are already being allocated. What if the economic development office? This is in addition?
Yeah, Your Worship, with regards to those items that I highlighted, those are sort of items in our budget that are allocated towards economic development and get used for side of the desk projects. So for example, the communications group, really excellent package there comes out of that. Our banners for Main Street have come out of that. So sort of disparate projects, but not focused. Not focused. Thank you, Councillor Peterson. That was exactly what I was going for. I'm losing my focus.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you. Then the other thing I just wanted to bring up is that Roger Brooks is coming as part of Wheatland County and talking about economic development. Do we have people that are going from the administration here?
Your Worship, we've passed it around. I'm not sure if anybody will take it up.
I've already heard him.
Yeah. I'm actually on vacation, heading on vacation Friday, so I can't make it. But I've seen Roger. Roger does a great and really much more dynamic speaker than a guy like me, which is always good. Rod, certainly if anybody is interested in going, and I will again pass it around to staff, specifically Justin and his team, to go out because it's really interesting, it's really thought-provoking, and challenges a lot of those traditional economic development is putting work, live, play on your website type mindsets.
Thank you, Ryan. Councillor Peterson, would you like to make that motion?
Yes, I would, Your Worship. I would move that Council direct administration to include a requisition for an additional $120,000 in the 2019 and 2020 budget years for a 2-year economic development contract about the current economic development budget, and that Council direct administration to begin the process of engaging an economic development officer for the town of Strathmore on a 2-year contract basis with the option of extending the contract for an additional 2 years based on established performance measurements. And further, that quarterly updates be provided to Council starting in January 2019 on the progress of the economic development function in the town of Strathmore.
Ms. Swatsky, did you get that?
No. the only difference, Ms. Sawatsky, is just with regards to after 2-year contract basis with an option for an extension of 2 years based on established performance measurement.
Let me know when you got that.
And I would just say to follow up, Your Worship, unlike yourself, I was much more in favor of hiring an urban anthropologist rather than an economic development officer, but you can't find them. So as a second, I know you would be the closest to that, so I'm glad with that, but
My old mayor in Lake Country was an anthropologist. That was great.
But urban anthropologist. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Thank you, Ryan. Seven 7.2, sanitary sewer asset. Condition assessment project on page 37.
Thank you, Worship. For a change, I won't be speaking to this. However, I will introduce our speaker because I don't think she's been up in front of council before. Frida Isaacs is our not so new anymore capital engineer. So Frida is charged with grappling with a lot of our long-term servicing issues. So what our long-term servicing plans are for water service, for sewer, for storm. So Frida's been putting together master plans, and this is part of the information gathering associated with it. So with that, I'll turn it over to Frida.
Thank you, and welcome, Frida.
Thank you. So, Your Worship and Council members, for today I would like to request for a decision on the sanitary sewer asset condition assessment project. So in particular, the recommendations
The recommendations that I'm making to council are that you can direct staff to apply for a grant opportunity for this project, and that the town commits to conducting the activities outlined in the grant application paperwork, and that the town commits $50,000 from its budget towards the cost of this initiative. This budget has already been provided in the infrastructure operations budget, so it's already embedded in there. Okay. So what is this project? Well, this project will include 30% of the town's sewers, which is approximately 17 kilometers. So we would like to inspect all clay tile pipes, since these are the older pipes. They were installed in the 1950s and 1960s. So we hope to be able to also include all concrete pipes that are under 600 millimeter size for this project. So that would only exclude the pipes that terminate directly into the wastewater treatment plant. And then for PVC pipes, we'll just select them based on function, as in whether it's a trunk sewer and how many people it services, where it's located and how old it is. And we hope to also cater for all the smaller diameter pipes, the smaller size pipes. So the scope of this project is limited because we want to prioritize the older sewers within the town, but we also want to keep the costs low for the project so that we can improve this process as we go ahead and assess the condition of the remainder of the sewers within the town. So when is this project scheduled for, and how will it be executed? This will be done in the spring and summer of 2019. And the approach we would like to take is we would like to hire an external party, most likely a consultant, to provide the data that we are going to feed into our asset management software that was approved at some point this year by council. And this consultant will conduct the field activities according to industry standards and provide our preliminary data analysis for the program. So field activities that I'm referring to include visual manhole inspections, and they'll provide a condition rating, maybe from scale of 1 to 5, depending on what we agree to. And then for the manholes, they will also have to provide the invert data for our data verification. And so for the sanitary sewers, CCTV camera inspection will be done to confirm the sewer physical properties and identify any structural or operational defects. So this external party will also carry out the data analysis, which includes estimating the remaining life for each sewer that will be studied. They will also assess any preliminary issues. For example, sewer cross connections, sewers that do not meet the minimum design slope, any hydraulic issues, bottlenecks. By bottlenecks, I mean sudden changes in pipe size that are not consistent with engineering design. And then they'll go ahead and recommend sanitary sewer remediation methods, operation and maintenance strategies. They'll provide us preliminary cost estimates and scheduling. So, how do we justify this project? Well, we have quite a number of sewers that are aging within the town, and these can be a greater risk for health and general comfort for the town's residents. And with a good asset management plan, not all, a good number of these issues can be mitigated. These issues include sewer backups, order issues, and pipe breaks. So with this process, we are trying to streamline the asset management plan for sanitary sewers. We would like to move into a risk-based proactive approach to dealing with issues that arise instead of attending to complaints as they come up. So we want to just anticipate what could go wrong and attend to it before it happens. So the data that will be provided for this project will be used to prioritize sewer repairs based on likelihood of failure the likelihood of failure could be based on what defects we find within the sewer inspection process. We could identify which sewers could potentially back up, which sewers could break, which ones could have contamination because of cross-connection. And then consequence of failure could be based on environmental issues. This could tie into where the sewer is located. If it's located next to a water body, that's not a good idea. So if it's in bad condition, then we have to attend to it sooner than a sewer that's not that doesn't have an environmental concern. So we also have to prioritize sewers within proximity to commercial zones, or with socio-political concerns, like sewers next to institutions or schools, etc. And this will also help us provide a data integrity check for the data that we are entering into the town's new asset management software. I guess since we are doing it for only 30% of the sewers, we can go back and update the data that has not been used for this program. And with this program, we also hope to have improved financial forecasting and for scheduling and budgets for maintenance projects and capital projects. For maintenance projects, I'm referring to sewer cleaning or root cutting, trimming back intruding pipe laterals into the sewers. And for capital projects, I'm mainly referring to sewers that actually need to be replaced because they are in bad shape. So we hope that this project will lead to a reduction in out-of-scope expenses like sewer breaks and blockages, because we are going to anticipate them and get ahead of the curve. So the best part of this is that 50% of this project can potentially be funded through a grant application. So we have budgeted $100,000 for this project, and $50,000 can be received through a grant, which we hope to apply for. The deadline for this grant is 4 weeks away. So if we get council's blessing to apply for this grant and commit to the remainder of the budget for this project and to running these activities next year, then we can submit our grant. That's it for me. Thank you.
I'm so thankful that we have people like you that are excited about sewer condition, and that you want to. Yes, way to go! And thank you for the little emojis, those little happy smiley faces everywhere. Council, do we have any questions? Councillor Peterson?
I just have one question, Your Worship, to administration, and predates Ms. Isaac's time with us. I appreciate the report very, very much. I'm wondering if this project, should it come to fruition, would impact on projects already approved or projects shifted into future years. So ones that we've split in half, that we've moved, Glenwood as an example. Would it impact that in any way? Would it hold it off? Would it change that condition at all?
No, Your Worship, probably not. Those projects, well, Glenwood and Bayview specifically are more water related and overlay related.
True, yeah.
Yeah, this one's really focusing on the downtown. We're already looking at doing a lot of our, and it's sort of the older areas of town, we're already looking at doing our cast iron pipe replacement. This is more so looking to get a lot more rigorous in terms of how we're approaching council, so, and I won't go on too long, I promise. Last year, one of our pipeline requests for council, one of our budget requests, the justification was old pipes.
Yes.
That really isn't the level of justification staff should be providing council when we're looking for money. Old pipes is evocative, I suppose, and describes an accurate description, but it's not really the level of rigor. So what this would do is this would start to inform our budgeting requests going forward and try to make it a little bit, a big bit smarter in terms of what we're asking.
And I certainly appreciate this. I really support it because, old pipes is one, but also, we made our decisions based on how many holes were dug in the street on any given area, going forward. So having some certainty around this into the future will be very useful to all of us. Thank you.
Councillor Corbeil?
Thank you, Your Worship. I have one quick question. Is there any way that we could tie some of these requests, like, because that EPCOR contract is coming up for renewal, can we request that they do some of this going forward?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Kobe. Your Worship. We have had this discussion with EPCOR and requested them to look into whether they could provide this service and tie into their current contract with the town. And currently, they do not have the capability to do that for the office within the town of Strathmore. But they did inform us that their office in Edmonton actually does this kind of program for the city of Edmonton. And they are going to come up with a strategy to address our needs. If they can incorporate that into their new contract, that could possibly be the best way forward. But if they can't do that, then we'd have to consult an external party like a consultant, which is why I just left it vague. I refer to an external party.
Thank you.
That's a good question. Can I have council make a motion, please? Sure. I move that council directs staff to apply for a grant opportunity from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Municipal Asset Management Program for the Town of Strathmore Sanitary Sewer Condition Assessment Program, and that council commits to conducting the sanitary system condition assessments submitted to the Federation of Canadian Municipality Municipal Asset Management Program, and that the town commits $50,000 from its infrastructure budget. What does it matter? Okay. From the operations budget towards the cost of this initiative. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. All in favor? Ms. Sawatsky, you're giving me that look. Was it okay? All right. Okay, it was carried. I need to ask council to just have a quick recess so I can have a bio break.
Move for a break, Your Worship.
Thank you. Can we have a 2-minute break, please? All in favor? Thank you.
Let's finish this.
Did you text Pat and tell him we just passed the minutes?
So Lorraine might have had the shortest one, but she's also going to have the longest.
I think so. All right. We're back and we're going to go to 7.3, proposed Lakewood Meadows area structure plan. No, we did that already. Thank goodness. Committee reports. Number 8. 8.1, reports from committees on which councillors sit. Councillor Peterson.
Have nothing, Your Worship.
Can I have, so we don't even have to have a motion. We can go right on. To number 10 is all done. Urgent business, number 11. 11.1, Traffic Advisory Committee grant.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to first advise Council that grant applications for the fall intake of the Alberta Traffic Safety Fund opened on September 17th, 2018. That's 2 days ago. The process closes on October 19th, which doesn't give us a lot of time. On Tuesday, September 18th, the Traffic Advisory Committee approved a motion to once again apply for funds from this department. The focus continues to be on safety, and specifically on safety in our school and our playground zones. Last year, an application was made for funds which focused on increasing the awareness of these zones by adding yellow segments to crosswalks, by purchasing 2 solar radar monitoring devices, and by installing yellow reflective sleeves onto posts that announce the fact that a crosswalk is nearby. Although effective, these measures do not deal with a major question that many people have in school and playground zones. When are they in effect? This year's grant application will focus on that particular issue. It is the committee's intention to apply for a grant which would allow the purchase of flashing yellow light fixtures which will operate only during school or playground zone hours. Our main intent is to ensure that no one has any excuse for speeding in any of these zones. I move, actually, prior to making a motion, Your Worship, I do have one prepared, but I will await any questions that might exist.
Thank you, Councillor Sobel. Are there any questions for councillors? Councillor Sobel, you can go ahead and make that motion.
Thank you. I move that Council approve the Traffic Advisory Committee to apply for funding to the Alberta Traffic Safety Fund for the purpose of purchasing flashing yellow light fixtures for our municipality's school and playground zones.
You've all heard the motion. All in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried.
Thank you.
Are there any administrative inquiries, Ms. Sawatsky?
Yes, Your Worship. There is one inquiry from Councillor Sobel in regards to the new bridge on George Freeman Trail, lighting in particular. It states, "It is with great anticipation that we await the replacement of the bridge on George Freeman Trail. Given the fact that there will be walking paths running parallel to the bridge, I'm wondering whether there has been any contemplation of having some sort of lighting present. The street lights at the entrance of George Freeman Trail are welcome, but I have observed that they do not assist in the area of the bridge. I would also remark that this stretch of road can be extremely dark."
Your Worship, staff can answer that immediately.
Thank you, Ryan.
So, Your Worship, with regards to that, there are no traffic lights currently planned for it. That was, the project was intended to be cost as little as possible. What staff, or what I guess I've done, I've directed Kelsey to pull some quotes on what it would cost to install lights on either end. Typically, that kind of light's about $11,000 each. However, there are a lot of rebates, grants, and sales that Fortis offers on these, so we can probably get it for a lot less. So once we get a price quote, we can bring it to council for consideration.
Councillor Sobel, are those the types of lights that you're...
I don't care what kind of lights. I just think any kind of lighting would be beneficial in that.
So just even lighting, like white lights going across or something?
I just think something to illuminate the bridge area so that pedestrians are observed. Not that they should be on the road, but it's still good for motorists to know that there's a pathway there.
Your Worship, and staff do fully agree. It's because it's that narrow sort of cross section there where elsewhere along George Freeman Trail it's a grade separated path, so and there's a good distance between traffic vehicles and pedestrians.
Exactly.
On the bridge it does narrow down, so there would be warrant for lights just for safety because pedestrians would be a lot closer to the carriageway there.
I would think reflective tape or some type of reflectiveness would be good too. Yep. Okay, thank you very much. Now we are done that part of the meeting and we're ready to go into camera.
I move we go into camera.
Thank you, Councillor Corbeil. All in favor? And that is carried.